Calling to order the City Council meeting of February 25th, 2025. Amazing, we're 2 months through February. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our council meeting. Good evening, council and directors and chiefs. Would you please call the roll, and then we will have a pledge of allegiance that I ask all participate in.
Mr. Newell?
Here.
Ms. Atra?
Here.
Ms. Weltman? Ms. Bowden? Here. Mr. LeMay?
Here.
Mr. Jensen?
Here.
Dr. Wong?
Here.
Please join me.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have a long agenda for this evening, so we're going to kick it off. First item is the approval of the council minutes from the month of January. We'll take them one at a time. First, the minutes of January 9th. We have a motion to adopt those minutes, or approve those minutes.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Newell?
Yes.
Ms. Atra?
Yes.
Ms. Bowden? Yes. Mr. LeMay?
Yes.
Mr. Jensen?
Yes.
Dr. Wong?
Abstain.
Next, a motion for the approval of the minutes of January 14th.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Newell?
Abstain.
Ms. Atra?
Yes.
Ms. Bowden? Yes. Mr. LeMay?
Yes.
Mr. Jensen?
Yes.
Dr. Wong?
Yes.
Thank you. Next, a motion for the approval of the minutes of January 22nd, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I had a couple comments on that. Near the middle, near the middle of the paragraph on, one second, I'll get to the right page. Near the middle of the paragraph on the first page, in my comments, I stated that.
I'm sorry, where are you, Tony?
First page, near the middle of my comments, which is the first item,
Okay,
I stated that Mr. Taft was the chairman of the Finance Committee when he opposed the common sense changes. I like those words to be in there. And in the section on Finance Committee report, I asked which budget was reported on the finance statements, and Joe stated that it was the budget adjusted for additional appropriations throughout the year. So not the fixed budget approved in 2023 for fiscal 2024. And that's an important distinction.
is that your recollection, Ms. Clark?
I would have to go back and listen to it. I mean, I can put these in there and then we
Okay.
approve them as amended.
Okay. She will take a look, and so long as
Yeah,
what you're describing is accurate, I have no problem
yeah.
seeing the
listen
minutes
to the
amended
tape
to
this morning,
reflect that.
or watch the video
Yeah,
this morning.
yeah. As always, I'd encourage council, if you have thoughts regarding the minutes that are distributed prior to these meetings, we can get a lot of these things taken care of, not in the meeting, but that's fine, Tony. So subject to the amendments, when verified, can we have a roll call?
Mr. Newell?
Yes.
Ms. Atra?
Yes.
Ms. Bowden? Yes. Mr. LeMay?
Yes.
Mr. Jensen?
Yes.
Dr. Wong?
Yes.
Okay, and finally, a motion for the approval of the minutes of January 28th, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion regarding those? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Newell?
Yes.
Ms. Atra?
Yes.
Ms. Bowden? Abstain. Mr. LeMay?
Yes.
Mr. Jensen?
Yes.
Dr. Wong?
Yes.
Great. Next, I want to welcome this evening our friends from MKSK, Susie Maurer and Cullen. I'm sorry, Cullen, your last name has escaped me.
Mavis.
Thank you. Welcome. And they are here this evening, as council is familiar, to discuss a proposal that they have submitted for stakeholder engagement and park green space improvement plan relative to the Pepper Pike Park. I understand that this is a different than we had before. Ms. Zatrock, I understand, solicited you to expand your proposal to include the empty lot to the east of
That's correct.
our
Yes.
parking lots. And I think we received that yesterday, but feel free to talk about it.
Okay, great. Yes, I was going to start by asking if there was anything in particular you wanted me to, go into first, but I'll just do a broad run through of the proposal.
Could I say a little something
Oh,
before?
yes,
Just
yes,
since I invited you in as well. I wanted to, because of the conversations that we had, I took the initiative to bring Susie and Cullen in to speak to us. And I would like to thank you both for your time tonight, for creating this proposal and for planning, the proposal for planning and professional services. This is an opportunity for a holistic park plan, visioning the future and truly understanding the potential for our park space. I've appreciated MKSK's vision for the Gates Mills Boulevard linear path, and I'm excited by the possibility of having their input regarding Pepper Pike Park and the space surrounding City Hall to determine the best potential uses for our community park. With the addition of the Gates Mills Boulevard Trail, Pepper Pike Park has the potential to become a highlight along the Gates Mills Boulevard linear trail. And with the addition of the Shaker Boulevard walkway, the space next to the service garage also has the potential to be a beautiful and useful community space, all while maintaining the authenticity of Pepper Pike. I believe this is our opportunity for a professional, long-range plan that would include community input and avoid a piecemeal approach to projects and position us for possible funding opportunities as they may become available. With that, I would love to have Susie and Cullen walk us through their presentation.
Thank you, Emmy. Thank you.
Thank you.
So really this proposal is, as requested, like a holistic approach, putting together a stakeholder engagement plan, which really allows the voices of the entire community to be heard in the visioning of what they want to see. And it really opens up just the dialogue so that we don't just come in and design something based on, a couple meetings, but we really include the entire community. So we, as you can see on the screen, the two areas that we were tasked with really focusing on in this proposal, on the right hand of the screen, you'll see the pink dashed line. That's the current park, and it's with the intention of revitalizing it and programming it to a higher degree, as well as what Emmy just described as the eastern green space parcel, where you see in the blue dashed line on it's sort of the rectangular parcel there. And so with that, we have put together two options, more or less a menu that you can kind of like look through and understand what we could potentially offer as a stakeholder engagement process. One on the left is a little bit more higher, it's higher degree of stakeholder engagement. It would include one public meeting, which if you're not familiar with what that entails, it's where we would provide several options of design for what the park and the green space could look like. And we would provide all sorts of activities and boards, and we would, after the community has been invited to this open house, we would walk them through some charrettes and help them understand what potential programming opportunities are. And then we would really hear their voice and know what you all would like to see and what they all would like to see. So that's really the higher level, is having the public meeting. In addition, we would include a follow-up to what we've heard, and we would synthesize the information and build a website that could be open for everybody to see the results. So that way it could include people who couldn't necessarily come in person, if there's for some reason. So It really is a holistic, inclusive opportunity for people's voices. At the end of that whole process, basically what the deliverable would be on our end is a fully vetted master plan for the spaces that reflect what we have heard through the engagement process, and it outlines the design potential for those spaces. And then that master plan can be then taken into the next phase of design development, construction documentation. That part is not what, we haven't like put a fee to that. We're just taking it to the schematic design phase.
And just a process question. So
Sure.
in that part 2, engagement, public open house, you're going to have, I mean, you're going to advertise this with, like, I'm assuming city would, we would both advertise this to get people to come.
Yes.
But you'll have, for them to see already some concepts.
Mhm.
Are those, how do you come up with those concepts to make sure they're, in the ballpark, I should say, about what the people might want? What's your process to get to that point?
Well, so we bring our own experience and our kind of expertise in this realm and our myriad of projects in different communities, and kind of bring to a group, either this body or a selected advisory group. That's generally our process. That would vet the ideas and kind of hear them out and hear what are the opportunities and what are the things that we're seeing, and also share back to us what are some of the priorities. And then through that dialogue and through that conversation, we would develop the concepts. And then generally that's what we go.
And are the concepts just visually, is it 2 plans for both spaces? Concept, just,
Mhm.
so you have 2 different plans
Mhm.
and different features and functions?
Exactly.
One has this, one has that, and, okay.
Yeah, there would be 2 different plans, and then there's opportunity for people to vote on what they like or comment on what
In
they
the-
like.
The
On-
features of those plans.
Exactly. It's a very interactive process. So there's a lot of stickers and markers involved, and that's
It's a public session.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then people can say, I hate this or I love it. And then that really helps us to start to like narrow in. And then, but that's not to say that that public meeting is going to be the final, because again, we're going to put something up on the website and then get some more comments that way as well.
And then to the side of that, if there was a feature or function or someone wants pull-up bars or something,
Mhm.
do you have a list of, here's other things that we could include?
Exactly,
To
yeah.
Generate ideas? Yeah.
We'll have, so we'll bring in easels, and there's just going to be a lot of boards on it with a lot of opportunities for what the park could be. And yeah.
And you've run, I assume you've run one of these before, and this has proven to be a productive, fruitful process.
Mhm. This is very common for almost, I would say, a high percentage of our projects at this point. It sets projects up for funding opportunities in the future. You can say you've done the public engagement process. This is reflective of what the community wants. That goes a long way in a lot of grant opportunities. And so more and more communities are seeing the benefit of that. And also it moves the process along down the road so that you do feedback loops, essentially, of saying, look, we heard this from you. This is what we're showing on the plan. Then when you go into construction documents, it's not a surprise. People are kind of expecting what they're seeing. And it also allows for that iterative process of also checking, what do you have budget for, and making those decisions early.
So coming out of that feedback, you would develop kind of your master plan, if you would.
Mhm.
And would that be iterative as well in terms of, Emmy's group or the full council, or how would that process go?
That's a little bit what we would work with you on,
Exactly.
but typically we work with a smaller group that is advising us and has been kind of deputized to do that. And then once they feel it's ready to come to council, then we would present to council. That's
Okay.
typically how we do it.
Yeah, so we have 3 smaller committee meetings programmed into this chart. You can see the little key at the bottom left. That'll kind of, we've kind of spelled it out very specifically, just to give you an idea of all of the involvement, all the subgroups that would help with the
Oh, I see.
process.
Okay. Any reaction to including that other parcel? I'm just curious. It's obviously a separate piece of land. It has a separate look and feel.
Yeah, it's definitely
Did it spark an idea in your head right away or no?
more was sparked in my head was just it starts to pull together this entire area as a campus. So, maybe it's not as physically programmed, but maybe there's a trail component or an interpretive component or something that's starting to make this entire parcel feel like it's open and welcome and
Or
can be
kid,
just a
kid
bit larger.
space and grown-up space maybe?
Yeah,
respite,
exactly,
yes,
exactly.
exactly. So
Yeah.
this is going to be a really nice, system of open spaces and community spaces now with the walking trail and the circle, and it will feel very expanded.
So you're excited about integrating it as opposed to this is going to be an issue because it's separate and off there.
I think I want to talk through it, but I do see a lot of opportunity in the full identity of a potential kind of central city campus here. So,
And I think, again, with that shaker walkway going in and us having the Gates Mills Trail, as I looked at it, you having the map in the proposal really showed and highlighted the potential that could be there if we desire it, if that's something that makes sense, that we do have additional space.
Yeah, and we'll hear from the community, ultimately, if they think it's what they want to see or not. So that will definitely weigh in.
So that's important to you to hear from the community.
Yeah, generally, because then when you have the final deliverable plan, as Colin said, there really aren't surprises, and you get a lot less pushback from community members that felt that maybe they weren't, people are more included in the process. Voices are heard. Yeah.
Thank you.
I had an interesting question by one of the by a resident who asked, how do we ensure that all voices are heard?
Mhm.
Can you talk through a little bit of the process of how you guys do that?
Sure.
Previous projects, making sure that it's not just what she expressed was the loudest in the room,
Mhm.
being the voice when there are many voices. Like how do we hear all those? And
Right.
well, some of that is so it's in multiple stages, but kind of the first thing is the invitation, the being invited to the space. So making sure that we have well publicized meetings, that they are in areas and publicized widely throughout the community so that it's most able to be attended also well in advance of the meeting. We try to hold them in times when people are not working, so making it accessible that way. Pairing an open meeting with an online option also just expands the ability to have more people involved. But then the way it's set up is that we open them up as more open houses and kind of workshops with activities. So you're getting to get conversation and feedback that's ably given by each and individual person. It's not a mic where people are standing and speaking. It's we'll do small tables where people can talk to each other. We'll do activities where people can kind of work through things. Or we'll have sticker boards for those that are less likely to do the interactive, but really just want to put their comments up. So we try to diversify the ways that people can participate and give the most democracy to the room. So basically making it sure that it's everyone feels invited to participate. And then we have the online survey as well. That is that kind of easier in some respects way for people to interface and interact if all of those ways aren't conducive to the way they'd like to participate.
Can they comment on the website as, I like this or don't like this? That's easy
Yes.
to do.
Yep. Yeah, we have we use is it Social Pinpoint? Yes.
Social Pinpoint.
Which is it has been proven to be in our experience one of the easiest to use and interface with. So we get the best results from that
So
website.
the planners in our office just did an entire Shaker rec plan with the city of Shaker Heights. And I don't know if you want to speak to that, but that was quite a bit of engagement, different types of engagement. And actually, I pulled up the Social Pinpoint website so you could see it. I don't know if my internet's gonna work. Oh, here we go. So after, people get opportunities. So this what you see here is just sort of a statistical culmination of the information that was found.
Mhm.
And then, so 8,367 people in Shaker Heights visited the website to comment on it. And 1,000 people made posts or on the vision board. And so like each one of these show where people made comments, and it's like a great way to gather information and then really synthesize the information in a true, correct way. And so this just kind of shows how many events happen. 30 events, pop-up events, 60 attendees at the stakeholder groups, 2 public meetings. That's a much larger plan than this is. That's their entire recreation plan for the city of Shaker Heights. So it was a much larger process.
How on this site would they give input if it's obvious to get to that? Is there a
Yeah.
screen just to give us some idea?
If you go to the vision board, and that's the interactive map.
Oops. I don't know if I have
If
Wi-Fi.
it's not, that's okay. I'm just
Darn it.
curious. Having it, ease of use is so important to get the feedback.
I might have some Wi-Fi issues here.
Okay, that's okay.
But I can send that website out so you can look at it.
Be great.
Okay, I lost it.
I can describe it,
Yeah.
act it out. So one of the options is a map where you can actually put pins. Sometimes we code them. For simplicity, a lot of times it's 3 colors, in this case, it was keep, rehab, or rebuild. And so you could put pins on for things in the rec plan of things that you really love, things that you'd like to rehab, and things that you'd like re-envisioned. And then the vision board is that open comment point. So we can direct comments, but then we can also provide some flexibility for people to provide open comments for things we haven't thought of. So.
So the image on the left, that's like sort of our higher level of what we're offering. So that would include 1 public meeting and the website. If you didn't want to go that far with a public meeting, we could just do a website. So we're kind of just giving you opportunities to consider, if you feel like a public meeting is too much for, this effort at this point.
You guys have had good engagement with public meetings in the past, it sounds like good
Yeah.
turnout.
Yeah, yeah.
And when do you typically, Saturday mornings, like when do you typically, or does it just depend on the community?
It really depends on the
Depends.
community. For that project, we did them in the evenings. That
Oh,
tended
okay.
to have better turnout. But for a park space like this, a lot of times we'll try and, if there's a community event or something that's happening simultaneously, an event on opening of the parkway, something like that, we would, you just try and time it with the times when people want to be out. So.
Yeah. So here's, I got the Wi-Fi or the website back up, but here's, people leaving comments on one of the boards. Maybe we could actually show pictures of do they have that up here?
Well, I did the interactive one
Okay.
just to show so you can see here, these are all the comments: keep, update, innovate, and then all the comments on all of the sites that we received.
Wow.
So, and
Those are on the website. You got those comments.
mhm,
Wow.
yeah. So, and then on the back end, this is very easy to for our processing, download, analyze, share with your community. It's your data, so you're welcome to also use it for whatever purposes you need.
If you click on the link for the shaker on there, their the project update on the Shaker Heights website, you can kind of see pictures of how they engage the community around maps too. So I don't know if you can click project update and then there. And then those photos kind of go through and they scroll automatically
Yeah, so there's Cullen. This is one of the interactive maps where people get scaled, basically cutouts on foam core that they can kind of move around and show you where they actually would like to see things. And it allows the community to also understand the scale of things and the cost of things. So a lot of times we put dollar amounts to these little puzzle pieces and they only get $100 to spend. Like, do they want a new golf course or do they want a new playground? You know, like how, so. Yeah.
Do you ever leave the boards up like in City Hall so that people can come by and make
Yep.
comments throughout the week or what specific period of time?
It's more successful if we have a partner there. So City Hall's a good one. Libraries are good. We've done grocery stores as long as there's someone there to kind of monitor and make sure.
People don't. pull up.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But yes, we're kind of putting the boards up and letting people know that they're around town is another option for flexibility.
So, yeah, and then the rest of our proposal really just shows examples of, potential programming opportunities and examples of how some of our projects, how a stakeholder event has led to a design. So, for instance, New Albany is what you're seeing now. That these are programming opportunities as well that might be desired by the community. Dog park, exercise amenities for adults, community garden, sensory gardens,
Pollinator gardens.
contemplative gardens, which could be also donor opportunities if there's a desire. Arboretum, ropes course.
Do you build in the donor thing as part of the program? Like, here's an opportunity to sponsor a bench or sponsor a garden, something like that?
Many times that's a component of, and what we do is we identify the elements that are available for that. And then usually the community or someone heading up that effort then sees through the naming portion and we can handle the inscriptions and all of that.
If you want to dedicate it to a loved one or something like that, they can put interesting. Okay.
I have a question. On the Shaker project sites, it looks like they had like 4 different sites around the city that you guys kind of did.
Mhm.
And I think we have some more parcels of land maybe that the city owns. Should we look at all of them at once or just trying to think like for a grand master plan? We have Morgan Park, we have, I mean, the circle, there's not much going on in there. I don't know if it can be integrated or if we just want to kind of
This is
start here.
This is a big chunk. I don't know. I'm kind of
Okay.
inclined to tackle this one first and then there's small, for example, where the city or the county where we took down those houses, there's 2 or 3 places, right, Mr. Mayor, where there's just a little pocket of.
Yeah, our availability we had, just for your information, as part of its stormwater management program, regional sewer has been extraordinarily engaged with Pepper Pike to try to control our stormwater issues. And you experience the new retention, the couple $1 million retention basin out on Gates Mills Boulevard. What they have also done is they've purchased and taken down 4 homes along that same creekway and established new floodplain. That property has now come back to the city. They don't want to own the property. However, it comes with a lot of floodplain
Restrictions,
for them. So we can't really do much with it. There would be the very front of those edges near the roadway. We could put a bench there or something for someone to take a pause. But we can't really build out into these parcels because it interferes with their floodplain program.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe it's just a bench. If we have sidewalks along there, that might be
Yeah,
a
yeah.
nice feature.
With no offense, we can put up a bench.
Right. I believe it.
Is there a couple other small parcels or is that kind of it?
I had asked Don and I had talked about compiling a list of city-owned properties. To my knowledge, and we have Morgan Park, Pepper Pike Park, what'll be the Gates Mills Linear Park. And then I believe there's a property on the corner of 87 and 91 that that is a lot that the city owns, but I don't know that there are any other large parcels. I don't know that Morgan Park is, I know that there's a butterfly garden there, so I'm not sure that that's should be part of the comprehensive plan, because I think really kind of focusing our energy and resources here makes sense, but that it's a discussion for everyone. It's not just
Yeah.
my,
We own a cemetery, I know that.
we do have city cemeteries.
Well, yeah.
Those are restful spaces.
And not wanting to quibble, but Morgan Park actually has more than a pollinator garden in it. It
No
also
disrespect, no disrespect in my.
No, it also has a
A
bridge and a
bench.
trail that goes
Yes.
all the way through the park and has a pavilion. So there's more in Morgan Park than the pollinator garden. All should visit it. I invite everyone in this room to go visit the beautiful Morgan Park.
I have a question. It looks like there's two separate areas and then the service department's kind of right next to it and then the parking lot. Do you see a way to bridge those two areas in the current configuration or?
Well, there are, where my cursor is here, these are residential.
Right.
So it would not be possible unless we,
went to
you
the
know,
parking lot?
or, maybe there's a visual connection on the frontage of the property, that we've been discussing at the office internally, that could work. And so we could look
For
at that.
a park this size, how many heated outdoor bathrooms would you envision?
So, loaded question. Is the building not accessible all the time? Is that the building?
So the
block?
the two bathrooms here are not heated at all.
Ah.
So they're closed in the winter. So we've been having to put a porta potty outside.
Okay.
And it would be nice to have a heated outdoor bathroom.
Definitely something we can look at as part of the plan. I would say we have all kinds of versions of year-round amenities in the parks that we design. So, and it's really up to, what's the appetite to run utilities, to maintain it year-round and all of that. But generally, restroom access is nice for parks.
I just would like to say that your process is well thought out. It's a pleasure to see. You've obviously done it before, and I think we should get some promising results out of it.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is, to me, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity to have a plan for these two parcels. And I know I didn't anticipate that second one, but it's an interesting add to the process that it's empty, it's a piece of grass now, but maybe do something with it to integrate it into the park. And I agree with Scott, the process is great to have a community buy-in and a master plan. Don't have to build it all at once. We can build it in pieces, looking at the cost and thinking about that. But I like the idea of the holistic approach to this and thinking about long-term, it's going to be there forever. So thinking about the long-term uses by the residents and what they'll enjoy now and tomorrow. So.
From your experience, what kind of grant funding opportunities are out there for something like this?
So a lot of times it's trails, access. I feel like I've said this a lot in the last few weeks. We're in a very different world right now, so things are changing rapidly. But that's been the multimodal opportunities, any sort of transportation based, even if it's on foot or by bike, tend to have be an opportunity to go for grant funding, as well as inclusivity and access. So there's also natural resource grants as well.
I think it makes a lot of sense to do the plan with the meeting, get
Public
complete engagement from the public, and especially since it's was that 12% or something more? To my mind, it's well worth the cost.
Yeah, I think the potential for the community to weigh in, for us to really envision all of this together and build that idea. Like Jim said, like a once in a lifetime opportunity. I'm
I also-
excited.
I also feel like we should make an extra effort to let the residents know that we're talking about the surrounding ones, like the ones adjacent to that property, the Cambridge ones, the ones on Brainerd. Like maybe we can make an extra effort, go to their houses just to let them know that we're planning this.
I think that's a valuable point, Kathy, in that these properties are surrounded by residential areas.
Exactly.
And even on what is Old Brainerd, we just had a new house built there recently, so I think that our spaces need to be mindful of what's around them. This isn't an isolated park that we need to be thoughtful. It's a nice point, Kathy.
So what would potential next steps be then?
So approval of proposal.
Yeah.
The next
Yeah,
step.
we would just,
And then we would kind of enter into the process. And our first step would be to work with this group and determine, is there going to be a subset advisory committee kind of running
Mhm.
the effort? Or would you want MCASK to kind of lead that and come for check-ins? That kind of process would be our next step. So.
But your proposal, this is your full up proposal though. It's ready to go from your perspective to get this process started.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
This is it.
Timeline, we're looking, it looked like on both of these, starting in April.
And that's mostly for contracting and getting, that's the buffer we usually allow for.
Okay.
So,
Visioning and then wrapping up before towards the
End of
end of
summer.
yeah.
summer.
And that's a really nice time to run engagement events.
Yeah.
Get
We could
people
have
thinking about the space when it's at its best.
we could even hold it in the park, in the pavilion or gazebo, and while kids are at play, and then get kids' opinions too, so.
And that way you're getting the actual people who use
Exactly.
the park
Yeah.
engaged with it.
For sure.
Yeah,
And inviting
actually
new
having it
people.
in springtime.
Yeah.
When people are there, that's a great point.
Mhm.
That, of course, in Cleveland, that's not until May.
Oh, we're very optimistic. It's already in the 50s.
It was 50 degrees today and they were back in the park.
So, I just had one clarification. I just want to make sure, under task 0 with project management, it listed some different groups that could be part of it. And in it, it says City Beautification Committee. I just wanted to make sure that was the Parks and Beautification Committee that is being highlighted for that.
I
Not,
think it's listed under one of our,
Oh.
yeah.
Yeah.
and I
Calendar
just wanted to
dot
kind of
application.
make sure from council and the administration that is the group that would be part of that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's,
Sure, that's fine.
Okay.
That's fine.
Do you have more?
no,
Okay.
this is it.
Council of more to
Well,
require.
I guess,
this for-
do we want to have another meeting and discussion of this, or are we ready to move forward now? What does?
It's up to council.
I'm ready to move
Absolutely.
earlier than later.
I think, yeah, unless everybody feels that they need more time, more thought, have more questions, would like to sit on it. I mean, we have a meeting in 2 weeks, or we could potentially move forward tonight.
Let's do it.
I think I'd feel more comfortable having a chance to digest this for a couple weeks.
Okay, that's fair,
Melanie
Tony.
will be
And
here,
we,
too.
and we would need an ordinance, I would think.
It's a motion.
A
A motion for the
Maybe a
mayor to
motion.
engage in the contract.
But, yeah, all right.
Is Melanie is on your committee though, right? So she's heard.
Melanie is on the Parks and Beautification Committee. Yeah,
But that's what I'm fine with that.
I'm only one.
All right, so we will,
one- one opinion, so.
I think it's worthwhile to allow Ms. Waltman to see it, review it, let Tony have his opportunity to review it. So why don't we just set this for
Yeah.
the next meeting,
I'll move
and
that.
we'll proceed that way.
And we can get audience comments too.
I want to thank you for this really detailed and wonderful presentation. Your programming actually was very instructive as to the levels of community engagement that you recommend be undertaken for the development of this 1 acre park behind us. And I appreciate very much your hard work. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for the opportunity.
Second that.
Thanks.
We'll give you a moment to gather your things. We don't have to talk over you. Take your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's so nice seeing you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think
Thank you.
Nice work. Very good. First class.
Hey, Jim, that folds if you. Okay.
Everyone back? Okay. Very interesting. We now move on to our next agenda item, which is a motion to renew a contract with Axon for body cameras and tasers. Mr. Brzezinski and Chief Dietz, you want to discuss this?
Sure, it's a budgeted renewal for all of the body cameras and tasers, a less lethal option for every individual officer. It also covers all of the charging hardware, the hardware that uploads the data, and the cloud storage, along with the evidence maintenance of that digital information for the next year.
Can you give us some, is it appropriate to give us costing information? I don't want to go beyond security issues here.
Sure, it's $28,348.29.
Okay. That's pretty modest.
So do they own this and we lease it, the
This
equipment?
is one of those lease programs.
Lease programs,
Contract
okay.
services, correct.
So that's just re-upping the lease, so to speak. Yeah.
That's correct.
It's re-upping,
This
just,
year's cost.
I'm sorry, wow, these things are really echoing tonight.
See if that helps.
Just to remind council, we have, it's still echoing. We have changed our programming so far as the things like the body cams and these cameras with a leasing program, rather than own it and having the equipment, which is high tech, antiquate within a short period of time. Through the leasing program, we get to renew and freshen the equipment as the technology progresses.
Sure.
So we found this to be a smarter program to engage in.
Is this a 1-year renewal?
It's a 3-year program. This is this year's cost of it.
This year's cost is the 28.
Can you do more than 1 year at a time, or it has to be a year at a time?
The ability for 1 year at a time for the 3-year contract.
And is that the price for the whole 3, each year for the first 3 years, or?
Each year, it's approximately the same price. Yeah. And then they replace items that are damaged and fix things for you as part of the contract.
Any other questions, Councilor?
And Chief, Axon is the main supplier in the whole country, right? I mean,
There's a couple main ones, but Axon is,
it's the one you see all the time on TV.
I think, regarded as the best. Yeah, they're excellent and durable.
Thanks.
Any other questions, Council? With that, then I'd ask for a motion to renew the contract with Exxon.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Newell?
Yes.
Ms. Zatra?
Yes.
Ms. Godek?
Yes.
Mr. Lemay?
Yes.
Mr. Gentile?
Yes.
Dr. Wong?
Yes.
Okay, next we proceed to we're requesting a motion to approve the bid of Geauga Highway in the amount of $944,855 for the Gates Mills Boulevard resurfacing project. Don, you want to, you opened bids last Friday, I believe,
Yes.
and why don't you
Yeah,
talk
we
to us?
we had, we sold 8 sets of plans, and we got 8 bidders, and it was a pretty competitive bid process. The low and second low were only 10,000 apart, it's below our budget, and I would recommend them to go ahead and start work. Last project we did for us was South Woodland Road, which came out.
And the winner is
Geauga
Geauga Highway.
And is this the project that you guys got the huge
Highway.
grant
We got
for?
approximately $800,000 from the county.
So that's gonna come off this, or that's
That is,
on top, like, what's our cost at the end of the day?
right now, about 200
Yeah, it's amazing.
And that's from here to
land.
Lander, right? From Shaker to Lander.
This from Brainerd. to
Brainerd.
Lander.
And timing of this project?
They each have different times, number of days to complete.
Oh, I didn't notice that on there.
Yeah,
Oh,
this one's a 60-day, the next one up was a 90-day.
Oh, thank you, Kathy.
120 days, but Don, you probably know better
Well,
how long it might take them.
it's probably about 60 days for the bulk of it. There's usually some little cleanup items and things that have to be taken care of, but that's a.
Gain down on that.
And what kind of lane closures do you anticipate? Or-
It's, most of the work is a moving zone, so when they're milling or paving, it's not total blockage. There's some catch basin things that are gonna happen, but it really won't interrupt traffic. You know,
Yeah, right. There's some big potholes right now. I just hit one on the way here.
me too. I was gonna say that.
Right somewhere between,
Yes.
yeah, right over there.
Yeah, right that way. There's a giant
Right
one.
lane.
So I'm excited for the paving contract.
Maybe we can fill it in the
Well,
meantime.
And thank you, Don. And Ms. Godek, for your inquiry, which pointed out the benefits that we are enjoying from the construction of the linear park and multi-purpose trail on Gates Mills Boulevard. We received, because we did construct that. That is why we have benefited, because it becomes a mix, it's not mixed use, what's the phrase? Multimodal, pardon me, a multimodal roadway. That is why we were dealing with the county. Don and I met with them and were able to be the beneficiaries of the extraordinary support of the county, which we extend our appreciation to again for the approximately $800,000 that they are contributing to this repaving project, because it was this multi-modal pathway. As I think we promised Mr. Gentile at the beginning of that project, we'd be working on something along those lines. So I'm glad we were able to
Fantastic.
deliver.
We got
I'm
a
glad
lot.
we could deliver.
Got a lot of money on that whole project, so.
Yeah, a real lot.
Will the bike lane, the big green ones, be on the asphalt as well? I just didn't see it on the actual painting
They are part of it, yes.
there. Okay.
Okay, so we'd entertain a motion to approve the bid of Geauga Highway.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Newell?
Yes.
Ms. Zatra?
Yes.
Ms. Godek? Yes. Mr. Lemay?
Yes.
Mr. Gentile?
Yes.
Dr. Wong?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Next, we are moving on to something that Mr. Lemay has asked to be placed on the docket, which is a discussion of a proposed council response to the mayor's posting on the city website regarding charter revisions. A draft was circulated by Mr. Lemay that should be in your packets. It was emailed to council last week, I believe. So, Mr. Lemay, since it's your project.
Thank
Why
you.
don't you lead it off?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So as we talked about last week, or last council meeting, the mayor had posted a description of the charter revisions that several members of the council felt didn't have enough context to describe the whole process and product. And so I crafted this letter intending to be an informative letter to our citizens to start the dialogue about what the full context of what the charter revisions are and what they're intended to do. Again, to be informational, and distributed last week to council. And the purpose of this is to get comments from the elected officials here today. And the mayor said he would post it on the website and put it in the Pepper Pike Post, as he did with his posting on the charter revision issues. So I would like to entertain comments from all of you on this, so we can move forward.
I thought it was well crafted, and I wouldn't have any revisions,
Thank you.
at all.
I agree, Jim. Thank you for taking the time to put this together. I felt it was concise and comprehensive, and I really appreciate your effort.
And I think there's a real desire for information and a concise, to be delivered in a concise way. So this is great. I was in, getting coffee this morning in my office, and I have one other person who lives in Pepper Pike who works with me, and he was like, "It's not going to take too long. Can you tell me what's going on?" And I was like, "Well, how much time do you have?" But it's important to be able to distill the larger document down without losing some of the nuance to the rationale behind the recommended changes. And, that's a really fine balance to strike. So I agree.
Yeah. I do want to make some comments. I have some significant concerns. Mr. Lemay will recall, as council will recall, my statement regarding the placement of this on the city's website was conditioned upon it being an appropriate document that did not violate, the counsel that we've received from our law director, that it not be a promotional piece, something that was basically had advocacy elements to it. The statement that I sent out on the website was, I vetted it with the law director and line by line, and it does not express opinions or expository to explain what the sender believes the purpose or the meaning of a recommended charter provision is. And there are elements of this letter that do that. There are many elements that do not. And while I appreciate the friendly and conversational tone, the net result is this is in many ways an interpretive and promotional piece, as opposed to simply saying this is what the charter revisions being advanced in the replacement charter are, and put that out. I understand council felt that, apparently not all aspects of the proposed replacement charter are set forth in the brief message that I sent out, which was not intended to recite 30 pages of charter, but to simply say, this is generally what happened. Here are some bullet points. They don't pretend to say everything. Here are the citations to the charter that is attached to it, or linked to it, that you can reference to read the whole thing on your own, and you're encouraged to read it on your own. There are things in this letter, unfortunately, that are even factually incorrect. And I think they are somewhat, they could lead to misunderstanding by the public. Let me just give you an example.
Why don't we just go through it
Wait,
systematically?
All right, let me give you an example and then we'll
Can
turn
I-
to that.
Can I ask just one question?
Yeah.
Did Mr. Byron give the same examination to this as he did to yours?
I don't,
Yes.
And what was Mr.
And what was
Byron's
your
opinion?
conclusion?
There's some issues that I have with it. Specifically, if you're identifying first, second, and third arguments in support of changes that there are significant safeguards built in, you're making an advocacy piece. This is advocacy. And there are two specific items that I found to be, if not false, then just misleading. One of them is that it's locally the norm for legislative branch of government to be administered by a member of the legislature. In fact, there are 641 statutory communities that have the mayor presiding at village council meetings. So to say it's the norm, I have a problem with that. There are only 253 cities in the state. And, you know, under their statutory form, they have the council president. The other item is that there's a reference to the removal of the finance director or the law director. And it said, as an example, the 2010 Pepper Pike ran out of cash and was nearly bankrupt. That was a function of the spending by council, not an error by the finance director. So as I understand it, the finance director's accounting was correct. So.
Is that a factual statement or is it not?
Yes, it's not a factual, well, it's
factual
misleading. It's misleading in the sense that you assert that they were nearly bankrupt
Right.
and there was no power for council to remove the finance director. That's misleading at best. It was council's fault that they spent too much money and the mayor.
Well, I disagree completely with that
Okay.
because the finance director should have alerted council that cash was almost.
Do you know that he didn't?
He did not.
I'm not sure that's true.
but that's why it's an advocacy piece.
Right.
Because of that very discussion you gentlemen just
Well,
had.
But Mayor, I got to remind you that you put out yours without anyone reviewing it from council.
Right.
Right.
It-
And so
it-
we-
it's not
we're
required by
affording you-
council.
And there are a number of provisions in yours that are misleading by omission, which is.
And I've asked previously, what is it? Tell me what is not factual in this.
Misleading by omission, Mr. Mayor. So it said the mayor, for example, in your item number 3, it says the mayor is removed as the council presiding officer and shall now provide written and oral reports to council. That's misleading because it says, it implies that all you do is provide written and oral reports. But in fact, under the charter, you have the right to provide proposed legislation. And it says fully participate in all council discussions. So this is misleading because it looks like it gives the appearance that you're there just to provide reports. But the charter says you fully participate in all discussions.
But isn't the preliminary statement to that, what you just cited, where the letter says, here are summaries of proposed changes. These are examples and do not represent all the proposed changes. And then in this, what you just recited, there's a direct section quote, section reference so that people can read it. It's the public's been told this does not pretend to be the full statement. It is a summary, and you should go read the full statement.
Oh, it did.
Which is impossible to find online, by the way.
But the point is, by
There's a
having.
link right
by
in this
having-
to it, Ms.
by-
Atrock. In this document online, there's a link to what you just said is impossible to find online.
That's not, I mean, that's
Okay,
not.
I'm
The point is this, that it says the mayor is, you picked out a sentence that said the mayor is removed as council presiding officer and shall now provide written and oral reports to council, leaving the implication that that's all you get to do at council meetings, when in fact, the charter says, and I quote, the mayor has the right to introduce ordinance and resolutions and take part in all discussions of all matters coming before council.
That's another section of the, if you
Right.
want to, if you wish to publish a letter that says that and give a reference to where, no objection. No objection at all.
I give the quote.
You can give that, but that is, if you want to, just like I did, say, here's a summary of part of the charter and say, this is in it. Here's a section citation. That is not objectionable.
Well, then let's-
What's objectionable are you know,
Well,
the
let's-
characterizations.
Well, let's go through this systematically. Start on page 1 and go through, Mr. Mayor. You challenged me last time and said, well, what is not factual? What is not factual? You kept asking me that question.
Right,
And
I
I don't
did.
disagree that this is factual, but it's misleading by omission.
All right, well, I'm glad you agree that it's factual.
But you,
And I
agree.
invite you to put in facts. I'm not calling upon you to say, to recite the entire charter in your letter. If you feel there are important things that you just recited, I think that can be included in a letter, and
Let's
I'm
go
comfortable.
through.
And I agree that it's misleading by omission. It does, you don't have to state a lie to make it misleading.
Well, I really object to the characterization of a lie, Mr. Gentili.
I didn't
I
say.
think,
it was-
no, you just said, you don't have to recite you just said it was a lie.
I didn't
Excuse
say
me.
it was a lie. I said
Yeah.
it was misleading.
All right.
let's, that's not helpful. I don't say that, Mr. Mayor, just so you're very clear. I think
Thank you, Mr. Lemay.
this is, there's some characterizations. You use the word significant changes, which is a value judgment. So you do that in your letter, but I don't think my concern was what's missing.
Do you think there are not significant changes in this charter replacement?
I'm saying it's a value judgment, which you're making. So it's a
I
character.
think anyone who looks at that red line, I don't think that's much of a value judgment. I disagree, but go on.
I think our goal here, if I may just, at least from my viewpoint, let's see if we can come up with something tonight that everybody can accept, including the mayor
And the law director.
and the law director, of course.
I did get a communication by a resident just asking why the letter was that the mayor had is published on the website, why it's still up there as well. So maybe we could create something where we all work together on one document that can just be there for just one.
Yeah.
I like that idea.
Let's go through this and see where you are, Mr. Mayor. I'd like this is a good process
Mhm.
because it's great for the public to hear this discussion about these points. That's a great educational opportunity. This is a complex understanding, a complex charter. So let's go. So paragraph 1. Any objections?
To the first sentence?
Yes. First paragraph.
Not terribly, no. I don't
Okay.
think it's
Paragraph-
informative, but it's a friendly lead-in.
Paragraph 2.
I think the first sentence is completely unnecessary. To reference that gas was 32 cents a gallon in 1966 and Bonanza was the most popular TV show. What does that have to do with our?
Is it a factual statement?
I wouldn't know.
I'm assuming it is.
It sets context for how long ago this was.
Okay,
I see no problem with setting context.
You
okay.
conclude that I was born that year.
And it's really old.
I don't think we're gonna hang up on when Bonanza was on the air.
Should it be Village of Pepper Pike at First City Charter or,
It was a village then.
okay.
Hmm.
Then should it be the first
Charter.
charter?
First charter.
Yeah. No.
Got it?
Yeah, good catch.
Good catch. Third paragraph.
I think it's somewhat misleading.
How so?
If you're going to be talking about misleading things. The charter has not been comprehensively reviewed in over 58 years. It wasn't reviewed by a charter commission, but as you know, because we all participate in charter revision during our span in office.
Yeah,
And I think there were perhaps 2 others before that.
there were 2 very specific, it wasn't a comprehensive
They
review.
were,
which is
they
the
were
key word.
incremental changes that were made to the
Correct.
charter.
One on zoning and one on the financial crisis.
Comprehensive implies the entirety of the document, right?
Yes, it's the document has not been comprehensively reviewed since 66.
Well, I've comprehensively reviewed it, but I don't if you wanted to say by the city's council.
By
it's
city
fair to
council?
say.
Yeah, okay.
But I do think the term comprehensive applies here, and I think I think
Okay.
it's legit. Comprehensively means in a thorough and complete manner covering all or nearly all elements or aspects of something in the context of the document.
With Mr. Byron's suggestion by the city's council, I do not object.
By the city council? Is that what
City
you mean?
council.
Yes.
Is it by the city council or was it by the commission?
No, it has not been comprehensive reviewed by city council in over 58 years. That's the point.
Why do we need city council in there?
Well, the implication is that it hasn't been comprehensively reviewed. I can tell you, I've comprehensively reviewed the charter. I had problems from the day I started with the provision that limited the non-taxable status of land, tried to limit and so I've been aware of that. And there were a couple of other bullet points that I brought to the commission's attention, like the requirement for a vote if you're going to annex property. It was at odds with the Ohio Supreme Court provision. So I knew all of those were in there 10 years ago, 12 years.
And thank you for doing that. But the first time we found out about that was because of the commission's work.
I remember Steve having said it before, Mr. Gentile.
I don't believe he ever mentioned it in a council meeting. I never heard that. I've been to every council meeting since I was elected, except
I had heard him talk about that zoning problem.
perhaps not in a
previously.
council meeting.
I don't remember where I said it.
Next paragraph, paragraph 4.
Well, I'm still in 3.
Okay.
I think there are, because I don't know what antiquated means.
Out of date, like the council, that provision that Steve just mentioned.
Okay, so it contained some out-of-date provisions. I don't know many.
Councilmen, not,
Journal, Sheila's journal that she writes in with the.
Like I said, but is that,
well,
is one enough? Is
excluding
many?
women
What-
from
what
our
is
charter.
many? I just think that many is.
It excludes women in, what, 25 cases? It only says councilmen?
Well, that's a universal one problem, that it was not, that it was gender specific instead of inclusive. So I disagree, but
Place where
I think that the use of the word modern practices is misplaced. I think there were many practices that have been adopted over the years by other communities. Some of those are not modern. I think they are simply, they've existed over the years with other communities. I don't know that modern is the right word.
It's new.
They're new to Pepper Pike, but they were not modern. They weren't new in these other communities. Other communities have had, council presidents. That's not new.
New practices?
No, I
I
think there's
prefer
many,
modern.
many practices. Many practices that have been adopted over the years by other communities.
I don't see new
I
as
prefer to have
advocacy.
modern.
I think new is a fine modifier.
It's
as is
it's new
modern.
relative to 1966. Right? All these are new relative to 1966.
No, I don't know. Well, I don't know that. I don't know that.
Does the word modern or new make this advocacy, Mr. Byron?
It gets you closer to it. There's not a bright line, sir, on advocacy. Some things, depending on how you order it, it makes it persuasive or not persuasive or intended to be persuasive. It's difficult to say. If you say that you don't have the most modern charter you could have, that's a criticism of the charter. That's an evaluation. So I would say, I would leave out the adjectives where possible. Leave out adjectives and adverbs. It does not include many practices that have been adopted by other communities. That's the way I'd say it.
What about contemporary? Is that?
Again, the same problem. Anytime you're putting an adverb or an adjective in the sentence, you are adding some evaluation. That's one way of doing it. The other thing that TV reporters like to say is things like, he refused to answer the question or something like that, where that you've got a loaded verb in it as well. So those are the things that I look for when I think if something is playing it straight, just giving facts, or the use of adverbs, verbs, and loaded verbs.
Thank you.
All right, let's keep going. I'll take that under advisement.
And remember, let me make clear that my advice is not that this can't be published. It's just that if it's advocacy, it should not be published at city expense. So if there's,
I was assuming you weren't telling us I didn't have any First Amendment rights anymore, so.
you don't have a First Amendment right as a member of council to use municipal funds.
I got that, I got
Okay.
that, so. Yeah. Paragraph 4.
I object to the use of the word old when you're referencing 66 because that makes me old.
I'm glad for a moment you keep a sense of humor here, Mr. Byron.
Well, when you get to be my age.
Is that antiquated, Steve? Is
It
that
is
what
probably
that,
antiquated.
is that antiquated or?
Yeah, I'm trying to
not
be more modern.
I actually think there is no reason for old there.
Take out old.
Anything else, paragraph 4?
I'm assuming that quote is from some statement.
It's from, all these quotes are from the Charter Review Commission final report.
Why can't there just be a period after the word charter? With a fresh set of eyes from residents' perspective, that's advocacy. I'm sorry, that's what that phrase is. Why, it should just be to look at the 66 charter. Was the purpose. And then you have your quote to ensure that the charter reflects.
Fresh set of eyes is what happened. Is people
I don't have a problem with that.
these are people who had never looked at the charter before.
I think that was very evident that those people had never looked at the charter before. That I will.
We should
concede.
not be shaming the Charter Review Commission. That's going too far. That's not
Okay,
appropriate.
listen,
Take that back. Like,
I am
that
not
is
going to take that
appropriate.
back.
It's going a little too far.
Tony can call me a liar, Ms. Zatrak.
I did not
Let's
participate in that,
let's
and I
keep
don't
on
think
task
what
here.
he said.
Steve, do you have an issue with that part of
I would put a period after charter,
So the sense to look at the 66 charter.
period.
What paragraph are we in?
the
Paragraph
first one?
Fourth, jumping around.
Last April.
I mean, I get that it's seeking to add color to the sentence, adding a little, but a fresh set of eyes. Again, we have a metaphor with an adjective, and that.
Why is that?
tends-
Why? It's a factual statement. It's a factual statement.
No.
I'm not sure. I mean, fresh has a number of different meanings.
Okay.
And you had a number of public officials who have served either in municipal government here or elsewhere. So I mean, there's an evaluation going on
From the
there,
resident's perspective.
These are all residents, right?
100%.
So from the resident's perspective is a factual statement.
Just take out.
Look at,
fresh
look
set
at
of eyes.
the whole clause, fresh set of eyes from the resident's perspective.
But that's an
Again,
evaluation.
it's an evaluation.
Just say
This isn't that hard. That's an
the
evaluation.
66 Charter.
What's
from
an
the
evaluation?
resident's perspective, or
To
just-
say with a fresh set of eyes from the resident's perspective is evaluative.
From the resident's perspective is not evaluative. That's what's happening.
Well, I don't know that it was from the resident, by saying
all
from the
residents.
resident's perspective, you're assuming from all of Pepper Pike's residents. This was from the Charter Commission's perspective.
But they're not elected officials. They are residents.
They were sworn
Okay.
public officials.
Okay.
Okay, we can end it at the charter. Does that sound good?
Mr. Lemang,
Let's keep,
would you be open to we never met on this. Would you like to just
No,
go
I
offline and do this, or are we gonna?
No, I'd like to
these
keep,
people
I'd
here
like,
for the next hour?
I think this is a great opportunity to have a discussion, so. I'd like
Okay.
to- How about paragraph 5?
Well, okay, I don't know where you are on it, but okay.
What happened?
What happened next?
No problem.
Paragraph 6?
I'd caution the use of the word elected. That can be confusing because that usually implies that it's a public election.
It said public vote for
I
the
would-
mayor and council.
I would say,
I see what he's saying.
I would say selected because that's
Yeah, I think that's right.
more accurate.
That's fine.
And it
That's
doesn't,
fine.
yeah.
That's fine, let's go.
Where are we now?
Paragraph 5, what happened next? Paragraph 6?
Again, you're using, oh, excuse me.
I just don't like the smell of this.
I think the review actually began, the first meeting was July 31st, I think.
That's correct.
Correct.
Well, all right, I don't want to quibble, but to say it began in July and it's July 31st,
It began in July.
Still in July.
How is that not July?
That's absolutely the definition.
that's accurate.
If you used July 31st, you'd remove all doubt as to when in July.
Started in July.
You want it, okay.
All right, go ahead and be misleading.
That is not misleading.
Or evaluate?
They actually did not begin evaluating on July 31st. They were sworn in and distributed materials on July
They actually
31st, if you
did
want to
begin,
quibble.
they actually did begin to look at one of the articles of the charter on that day. And you were
Right.
there.
It's not worth the,
Paragraph 7?
Oh, can I say something?
that's accurate.
Past paragraph. It just says a letter was mailed to all residents as were 4 emails and 3 notices, but it doesn't, I mean, does it, like, it was asking for input, right? So then, should you have that in that sentence, or is it enough that,
In terms of what the letter said?
or just, yeah, like asking for input or,
Well, it says the public was invited to take part in it.
right?
And I think the presumption is the letter was to invite you to take part in it.
I mean, it just says the letter was
I don't think
mailed.
you have a problem.
It
Yeah,
could just
okay.
be saying to,
That's a fair comment. Letter inviting the public or something like that.
something like that.
Paragraph 8,
That's a tricky one.
ultimately,
No, ultimately is fine. I like that word.
what's that? Are you on paragraph 8 with me?
Yeah,
Ultimately?
yeah.
Okay.
As I understood the process, I guess they all voted for it. So
Yeah.
although it was consensual, it was, what was the word they used? They established in their first meeting.
Consensus.
Consensual. Consensual?
Consensus.
Consensus. It was a consensus vote as I understood.
But they all
But
voted.
the final vote for the report was unanimous.
Okay.
So now we're at the top of page 2.
Yeah, paragraph 10, the commission's recommendations.
Well, Steve has already commented on that first paragraph.
What
The
was-
second paragraph, actually, President and Council.
President and Council.
I wouldn't say that mayors presiding over council meetings is an unusual arrangement
Yeah.
at the local level.
For, now, Steve, your data, break that out for cities as opposed to villages and
Sure,
for charter cities.
there are 253 cities.
Charter cities?
No, 253 charter cities.
Okay.
There are a total of 285 cities. And so there are 32 charter cities. Parma's the closest one that doesn't have a charter.
So let's limit the universe to charter cities then. Okay, because we are a charter city, so that's our category.
Okay.
So how many of those have a president of council?
I don't know. Dayton doesn't have a council at all. They have a commission. So I don't know what the numbers are.
How is that relevant?
It's relevant that they don't have a mayor or council.
Well, but we have 253 charter cities. So just-
Right.
We have 253 charter cities, so that's my universe I want to compare it to. So you don't have data on how many of those have a president. of
Well,
council.
I'm just saying that it is not unusual at the local government to have mayors presiding
I'm
at council.
going to limit this to charter cities.
Okay.
Okay, to make it accurate. Because we are a charter city.
The information that I got doesn't break it down like that.
Okay.
I
will
would say
find out.
that it is to say that it's a norm of the legislative branch of government to be administered by a member of the legislature is not accurate in the state of Ohio.
For federal and state?
For local, and that's what we're talking about.
I will clarify, I'm only talking about charter cities.
With the comparisons that the Charter Commission made in its report were to villages, not charter cities.
We're largely charter cities.
They were, no.
Others as well, but mostly charter cities.
Moreland, Village, Moreland, Orange, they were, all the Hunting Valley, they're all villages that they were.
3 paragraphs down, you reference Chagrin Falls, Moreland Hills, Orange Village, and Mayfield Village. These are
Villages.
chartered villages that have a president of council following the statutory city model.
One of the charter commission members found that 80% of the municipalities in Cuyahoga County had a president of council. That's what this refers to.
Okay.
She did that survey.
So maybe we can soften unusual to something.
Uncommon.
So villages with charters, Steve, this is a legal question. Villages with charters can have a president of council,
They can.
form of government,
Uh-huh.
as per their charter, right?
Right.
So villages, and you said there are 253, when you say charter cities, are you referring cities technically or villages also?
No, 253 charter cities,
And how many charter villages?
32.
32. Okay.
And this is if Chat GPT is to be believed. So
That's your source?
that's my source. But they're citing the Ohio Municipal League's report. So
Okay.
I didn't follow through to the original document.
So cities and charters with, cities and villages with charters is the comparative set then.
Okay, go ahead.
Is that right?
I
To us?
I would say that charters are the comparable, and I don't have data on how many have presence of council and how many.
Versus mayor.
have
I will
mayors.
find out. You don't have an objection to federal and state, that being the case,
Sheila, write draft on it.
correct?
Right,
Okay. It's just the local portion you're objecting to.
right.
Got it. Okay. So that's paragraph 11, paragraph 12.
Oh, that's 10. President of
10 is the
council.
first, that's 10, that's 11, that's 12.
No, it's not.
No.
There are 8 on the first page.
Oh, I'm taking out the first one.
9, 10, 11.
Which paragraph are you in, Mr. Lemay?
I'm on, under the 66 charter, however.
Okay. Because they're not numbered, so I got lost. I'm
Yep.
sorry. I don't think it's accurate to say the mayor's in the position of administration for the, oh, no, I see, for the executive branch. It should say, and is presiding officer of city council.
Right.
Say what you just said again?
The word administration is a little confusing because that's what the executive branch does, is administer the city government.
Mm-hmm.
He presides over the legislative branch. So he administers the executive branch and presides over the legislative branch.
But he does more than just preside.
No, I don't.
You provide the agenda for the meeting? You keep the records for the meeting?
That's incidental to presiding. That's the tool. The agenda is the tool of the president of council to maintain order over the meeting.
And I do not exclusively provide the agenda. As you know, on this evening's agenda, there are a number of items
say
that were
exclusive.
provided by the city
You
council.
provide the first draft.
I provide the first
You
draft.
keep track of all the minutes, right?
No, the clerk of council does.
Who reports to you?
She's the clerk of council,
Oh, okay. All right, let's keep
but
going. Paragraph 12, the goal.
so the audience is aware, Ms. O'Connor is making copies of the document that we're looking at.
Thank you.
So that you will not be sitting there in total,
Thank you, thank you.
lack of knowledge as to what the conversation is up here. So I've asked her to go make copies.
That's a good thing.
But she's not going to hand them out.
That will negotiate.
We'll put them on social media.
Are we in the goal?
Yeah, we're in the goal.
I don't know that this letter can say what the commission believed.
Well, they stated that in a report.
That's not in quotes that you have there.
I will put it in quotes.
That, there's a statement of that sentence?
There is, very much, in quotes.
Can you make a reference somewhere in here that those quotes refer to?
I do.
It did on the first page.
It's on the first page.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
The
Where-
quoted language in this letter is from the commission's final report.
You're right, I read that sentence.
Okay.
I'll make that a quote. The goal, the first statement in the goal.
So the quote would end after the word council? Is that
I
the
have to-
quote? It will improve communication, collaboration with council, end quote? Is that the quote?
I will have to find the quote, but it says that. I paraphrase that. I'll make it the exact quote.
Okay.
Oh, good. She is handing it out. I was worried.
Here, we'll pass them down.
Pass them down.
Does it reflect, Sheila, that's a draft you're handing out?
It says that on the first page.
I have one. I have more. Oh, wait. My boys in the back. Don't forget my boys in the back.
Thank you.
Look at the agenda. Let me interrupt you 1 second here. Department heads, do you have anything when we get to your part that you needed to report? I have no problem excusing you from this meeting. You don't have to sit here. If you want to, and you're enjoying the process, if the chief feels he should be here to enforce disturbances, then, but.
No, he feels he'll make it home before it's over, so he'll catch the end of it.
Frazier needs to be here in case I fake a heart attack.
He ain't giving you mouth to mouth.
Thank you, Sheila.
No, you say. I just became very popular with the department heads. What- Draw me back to where you are, Mr. Ryan.
Paragraph 12, the goal. I'm going to convert the first sentence into a quote from the report, so it's not subjective.
They took us out of it.
He's a sergeant.
Yeah, this is until we go. This is stupid. Time is not a reason to change something. All of these are different. No, time is not.
Is the word protect part of what you're quoting?
No, I have to look, I can look for that to see what
What,
reference is.
adjust it to what and, make sure it's.
It says,
citation
it says,
Back to their
in the
thing.
context, it says, we're doing this for a clear separation of powers.
It says that the,
I think it's the
on the
adjective
report, page
where
4.
it's hanging up.
The word protect, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, separation of powers is independence. I mean, that's just.
I don't, if that's what they said, that's what they said. I just want to be clear that,
I have the report if you want it.
Yeah.
since you only
I'll
put.
I'll find it. Let's keep, listen, I don't want to take all night with this. I'll have to
Right,
take half the
neither
night.
do I. That's why I suggested maybe we should just go offline
Yeah,
and
let's-
bang through
Let's
this.
go through this once. So paragraph 13, which is the president.
Well, no, those are little.
Time tested?
Mhm.
What? That's,
Been around for a long time.
that's, well, has been present for a long time.
That's a little.
It's a,
Proving this. Oh, okay.
The problem with this is that even if you're quoting the Charter Review Commission in support of their policy choice, it is council advocating for the policy choice and spending.
I'm making a
City
factual quote from the
But-
commission's report.
But my point is, and.
The
and
commission
you-
report is a public record. It's on the
There's
website.
no question all that's true. There's no question.
So I'm referencing a
But
public
in the
document.
context, you're. you
Now-
are-
Hold on. I'm the presiding officer still, so you don't speak over, so you can each make your fair point. Please.
The concern still exists that taken as a whole, even if you're quoting some advocacy piece that supported the policy choices of the commission, this is an advocacy piece for an item that's on the ballot this May.
I'm quoting.
It's an election issue.
I'm quoting a public document.
Yes. And you're welcome to do so, not with municipal dollars.
That is quoting a public document?
Look, the Charter Review Commission is advocating for its own piece. That's why they wrote it the way they did it. They're saying these are the policy choices we agree with.
And I'm informing the city, I'm informing our citizens with an accurate statement of what the commission did.
You can, that's already been
An
done.
accurate statement, what the mayor quotes.
There's a
in his-
link, there's a link
The
to
mayor
the
quotes in
report.
his.
There's a link to the report.
Steve, the mayor quotes in his. That's okay, but mine's not?
You are providing significant evaluatory comment on each of these
I'm
points.
quoting the report, which is what the
You're
mayor did.
advocating.
That's what the mayor did. He quoted the report.
It's
I did
different.
not
He's-
advocate.
It's
he-
different
he
because we
referenced-
wrote it, not the mayor?
No, it's different because, and I didn't write it, by the way. It's different because he's identifying issue. He's not saying these are bad. He's not saying these should not be adopted. This is an advocacy piece from front to back.
It is not.
Okay.
It's informing the citizens of what the commission did,
I'm just
which is
giving
a
you my
public
opinion.
record. Well, of course. The mayor quotes the commission.
Yeah, right.
So I can't, but he can.
And this-
Their executive report or whatever report is not on the ballot, Mr. Lemay.
No, but it's a public record to
It's
inform
a
our
public
citizens.
record, but it's not on the
You
ballot.
advocated previously, the citizens should all read it.
Yes.
And I'm
I
encouraging
said
them
they
to read
should
it here.
read the
I have it
the
linked
revised
for them to read.
replacement charter. I didn't say they should read the revised executive report. They're welcome to read the revised executive report. It's on the website, but You know, there's a difference between what's on the ballot and just adopting their report, which is an advocacy piece and a justification for their decisions, and saying, that's what we're publishing.
I'm
That's
publishing
different.
what the commission said in their public record and recommendation. That's important information for our citizens. These are 9 residents who spent hundreds of, if not thousands of hours coming to a point of view and their recommendations. The citizens should know about this. And it's not advocacy to make an accurate quote of what.
How did they spend thousands of hours?
Their
Collectively.
personal, yeah.
There are 9 of them, right? And they had 17 meetings, and you calculate that to be thousands of hours?
With the time away from the meetings? Absolutely.
Well, there were a lot of times away from the meetings I have observed, seeing the offline emails going back and forth where things were being advocated, discussed, and deliberated outside of the public forum. That I saw, but I don't think that is appropriate to adopt. Oh, there were thousands of hours that the commission worked. What, you want to say offline, outside of the public view? You want to add that to it too?
The document didn't get drafted by itself. Someone had to go off on a corner and draft, and that wasn't in.
It was supposed to be drafted sitting in a public meeting. Excuse me. It wasn't supposed to be adopted or drafted by council people drafting the commission report or the commission recommendations. That's not how this charter repeal was intended to be drafted. It was wrong to do it that way, and you know it.
Paragraph 13.
I think my commentary, I'd like to reserve my commentary for a final draft and not go through this drafting process here. I'm concerned that you keep something in against my recommendation and there may be exposure to the city based on things that I've said. So I'm going to reserve the right to not comment on this.
Understood.
Yeah.
I think you get this, is it fair, Mr. Lemay, to say that you get the sense of what the law director's objections are?
Yeah, but
The
I'd like
things
to,
that you should just,
I'd like to
now,
hear.
why don't you just go deal with it
I'd
and bring
like
it
to-
back?
I'd like to hear
and
your,
see where we are.
I can't. I have to do this paragraph by paragraph, understand your objections, Mr. Mayor, specifically.
My objections are those
Well, let's-
sentences that are advocacy pieces.
Well,
I think
I
I've
don't
said
know
that.
what those are, because I think they're factual assertions from the commission's report, and that's not advocacy. That's telling the people what the commission decided.
What paragraph are we on?
The mayor still runs Pepper Pike, I think.
I'm sorry, I don't know where you are.
The
mayor
head
still runs
is Pepper
Pepper
Pike.
Oh. I don't think that is an equivalent to say a president of council at the local level is like having a speaker of the house at the state level.
Why not? Why
Speaker
not?
of the House has, lots of responsibilities other than what is the powers and duty, because in our charter, in the replacement charter, as I recall, without it in front of me, what it says is that the president of council shall be the presiding officer of the council.
Mhm.
And then there was something about interacting with the mayor, I believe. And then there's a phrase that says, and such other powers and duties as may be described by ordinance.
Mhm.
Well,
Correct. The point is, you're the
well, that's the
presiding,
point.
well, you're the presiding officer, and the speaker of the house is the presiding officer.
Well, those are the labels. How you fill up the glass
Well,
underneath
now
the
limited
label is
to
what
presiding.
you're trying to,
The president of council presiding at the local level is like having a speaker preside at the state level.
I don't know that to be true at all.
As the presiding part?
The word presiding?
Mhm.
I don't know what the rules of Speaker of the House in the state of Ohio are.
He's reserving his
I
opinion.
really don't know. It's an advocacy piece. That statement is an advocacy.
It's a factual statement.
It's not what the
It's a
charter
factual
talks
statement.
about.
It's a factual statement.
There are lots of things you can say are factual statements. That doesn't mean that it is directing people to a statement in the repealed and replaced charter proposal. That doesn't say, oh, the presiding officer is like the Speaker of the House in Ohio. That is by nature advocating. It's making a comparison that I assume you're intending to be a favorable comparison.
I am not. I'm intended to be an informational comparison. What does a presiding person do? Well, here's another presiding person.
Well,
How is that advocacy?
Because it has nothing to do with directing people to language of the charter repeal.
It's explaining.
No, it's an interpretive statement of
But comparing
it.
our current government to the governor running the meetings for the House of Representatives is very similar to what is actually occurring right now. So I think giving somebody a visual of what that is, I don't know how that's advocacy other than it is accurate.
You just described advocacy.
It provides context for what a presiding person.
That's
not advocating
advocacy.
for it.
There's no value judgment in this paragraph, none. And that's the definition of advocacy.
The definition
No,
of presiding.
I don't agree with you, Ms.
Position
Godey.
of authority in a meeting or other gathering. That's the definition.
Though you said you wanted to know my reaction to it.
I do.
My reaction.
Okay. Next sentence.
I've gotten lost in it again. What's the beginning of the sentence you're referring
This
to?
position doesn't diminish the mayor's power to run the city.
Oh, I think the way it's described in the repeal and replace charter, it diminishes the mayor's power to
How
run
so?
the city. Absolutely.
How so?
Because I think part of the position of the mayor to run the city includes serving as the presiding officer of council. I think that's very much part of the mayor's power to run this city. I think it's been part of the power and legitimacy and authority given to the mayor for 60 years in this city,
So
that he is the or she, if over time, is the presiding officer of this body. I think it absolutely affects
Running
the
the
power
city-
to run the city.
running the city is presiding over the legislature.
In this city, this is very much a part of running the city. That's what this
But this
role,
says-
this is what this role is in part comprised of. Not always, yes.
So you object to
The mayor
run,
in this city
you-
administers
you're-
and directs the
you're,
departments, but this is very much a part of the mayor's duty right now, today, in this city. How can you say it doesn't diminish it?
so your objection is to run the city, not descriptive.
Doesn't diminish is part of my objection, yeah.
To
Not
run the
just, not,
city.
yeah. I think the whole that whole beginning phrase, I find objectionable. Just as having the House of Representatives run by the House Speaker does not diminish. They're two different things. It's not a just as. The Speaker of the House in the state of Ohio doesn't have the same role as the mayor of this city. So you can't say that.
He's not saying that.
I'm not
Yes,
saying that.
that's what that sentence says.
No, I'm
Just as the Speaker of the House in the state does not diminish the authority of the Ohio governor to run state government.
That's true.
That statement standing alone, but it's not just as, they're two different functions.
I'll fix it. Next paragraph.
Jesus Christ.
That's wrong,
Tell me why it's wrong.
because the revised charter says that the mayor, and it lists a number of duties, I think that's in Article 5.
Yes.
The red line which I think when I reviewed some of the red line, some of the drafted provisions, which I think came from your pen, Mr. Lemay, it said that the mayor subject to, what was the phrase? Something, unless is otherwise provided in this charter. And that is different because that links into other portions of the charter. So I think very much the executive authority is changed under this charter.
No, because the problem with the 66 charter was that provision didn't exist. And so every power that council had in the charter was eliminated by the absence of that. For example, under your executive authority, you have the power of appointment for everyone. And
Subject to the approval of council.
that's in another provision. So because that clause didn't exist, those two provisions were hard conflict. There was no reconciling them. Because you had absolute authority under that old 66 charter with no exceptions. So the council, it was badly drafted and you can't reconcile those two. You had the complete power under Article 5, yet other places in the charter, council had certain confirmation powers, which was in complete conflict.
Okay, but look at what else is said. There's a new conflict created by this drafting because of the what I recited before, where it describes the powers of the and authority of the president of council and such other powers as may be established by ordinance. I think potentially that blows a hole because that could be as otherwise created, as otherwise provided in the council and a reference back. Maybe it's just a bad drafting exercise because I'm reading that to say that by ordinance, the council can certainly increase the authority and powers of the president of council to the point where it essentially can eclipse because of other provisions in this charter.
It does not.
The powers, well, that's your interpretation.
No, it's not.
Well, I'm
Steve,
sorry, that's the interpretation that I see.
Can an ordinance, no, this is a basic law. Can an ordinance undo a charter provision?
If the charter says, or as provided by ordinance of council, it gives council the authority to decide what is going to be governed by the charter.
So we could have a charter provision that takes away an ordinance that takes away the mayor's authority in the charter.
If the charter provision is written that way, yes.
See, and this is my objection to a lot of what's going on in this, Mr. Lemay. A charter is intended to frame in a broad way to use your word, the guardrails, and that ordinances cannot conflict with the charter. That's the goal of what a charter creates.
Correct.
By this insertion throughout this charter of the phrase, except as otherwise provided by ordinance.
No,
it says that
Charter.
in this one, but it says except as otherwise provided in the charter, and part of that charter is the president of council provision that provides that the powers of the president of council can be ultimately expanded to however the city council wishes to expand it. They feed into each other so that the limitation of the except as otherwise provided by charter for the executive reflects into this president of council expansion by ordinance. That is a drafting problem in this.
The current charter.
That may not have been the intent, but that's what the words do.
The current charter, council has no powers. Because they're denuded by the charter provision that has no exception.
Absolutely wrong. Under the current charter, the council has tremendous power.
If those powers conflict with something in your executive authority,
You said that under the current charter, the council has no power. The council has tremendous power under the current charter because it has to approve every appointment of the mayor.
That's not what I'm saying.
It can override vetoes. It has tremendous power.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is where you have a specific authority here to do these 13, 14, 15 things, if there's anywhere in the charter where council is qualifying those powers, those are irreconcilably conflicted in the 66 charter.
In the 60, no, I don't think that's.
Because if you, so for one
Because the
example.
charter itself gives other.
Well, no,
powers to the
no,
council.
because this says flatly, you have the power of appointment. Flatly, no exceptions. You go a few pages later and says, however, subject to confirmation. You can't reconcile those clauses.
Maybe there were things in this, listen, I'm not saying that this charter, the old 66 charter, is always artfully drafted. What I'm talking about is what this new proposed charter does. And what the new proposed charter does, I think, is inappropriate to our government. That's what I think.
I understand that. I understand your point of view.
I think if there had been a rigorous and more prolonged examination by the commission and by the council in its 3.5 week review of the commission recommendations, then with involvement of the community, similar to what MKSK was recommending for a 1 acre park behind City Hall, I think we would have not be having this conversation right now. I think there would have been an open process. I think there would have been this debate, and the things that you and I, Mr. LeMay, are debating now would have been in the full light of conversation and, you know, just the reconciliation
That conversation.
of everything, of a rigorous examination. It would have been resolved.
That conversation was held in 17 public meetings of the Charter Review Commission, which the public was fully invited to participate and provide comments over a period of 5 months.
But what the public, no, excuse me, that is not fair. Because what the public saw at those public meetings did not include any advice to the public as to the back channel negotiation and drafting of what was then presented virtually as a fait accompli in the public meetings. The exposure of the public to that draft charter was sent out in an email generally, or an attachment to the Pepper Pike Post for people to open with a statement basically of, if you're interested, if you have anything to comment on or want to be involved, here's where we are in the draft right now. And I'm paraphrasing. And as I told council before, at the first meeting where you began reviewing this charter recommendation, I told council that our analytics demonstrated that only about 62% of those emails were ever even opened, and that in many instances, the link that showed the rolling revised draft of the charter was never even opened. So I think it is a sham, frankly, to claim that, oh, the public knew what was going on and had an opportunity. Those ladies right there explained to us all tonight what true open engagement was. And that is what the commission should have done. That is what the council should have done. And unfortunately, it was not done. Now you know my viewpoint on it. Back to your letter.
Page 6, next paragraph. I understand your point on, so I'm at the paragraph counting moreover.
Well, I know that the mayor, I don't know enough to really comment on this in full, Mr. LeMay, I'm sorry. You're right, the replacement charter does say that the mayor is commanded, basically, to appear at all council meetings. The level, and to introduce ordinances and resolutions, I think that phrase is accurate. I believe to the charter, if that is the phrase out of the
Yeah, it is.
replacement charter. I don't have a problem with that phrase. The idea of to fully participate, I don't know if that phrase is actually in there.
No, it's no different than your participation currently, other than presiding.
Well, I'm the presiding officer, so.
Other than presiding, I have
So
an
I get
exception.
I get to recognize anyone, and I try to be very liberal in my welcoming of everyone on this council to
This is
participate.
not
I
about-
try not to
this
cut
is not
people off.
about an individual, and you're making it about an individual.
No, I am not. I'm saying right now, this presiding officer does not limit people's contributions to the
That's what
conversation.
you do. We're trying to prevent against a mayor who is not as beneficial as you are.
But from a participation standpoint, nothing has changed, other than you're not presiding officer.
I don't know if that's accurate or not. I just don't. I don't know. I don't have the replacement charter in my head to give you a response. You want me to agree or disagree with it? I don't know the replacement charter enough in my head to do that.
Okay.
It may be accurate, but I don't know.
Okay.
Where are we?
Aiming.
17?
Yeah.
Amy?
That's
Aiming to?
Yeah.
Is that where we are?
That's a one long quote from the report.
Yeah, again, I don't know that it should, I don't agree that it should be in this letter, but that's an accurate quote. So far as I recall, I think that's an accurate quote. I don't think it should be in this letter. That whole first paragraph, I think, has nothing to do with anything other than advocacy.
It's providing context for what the removal clause does. It's not advocating anything. It's a factual statement.
It's trying to justify what the replacement commission does. That's advocacy. That explanation is
Justify, it
advocacy.
explains what it does. How is it advocating? Under federal and state constitutional
That
legislative
explanation,
power,
because that's
That's a
what
true
advocacy
statement.
is,
It's a
Mr. Lemay.
factually
It's
true
when you explain things. That's advocacy.
Well, advocacy is not explaining things at
Yes,
all.
it is.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
Advocacy is voicing
Yes,
an
it is.
opinion and persuading. Come
this
on.
is a factual statement.
That is the purpose of this, is to persuade. That is what
The
that.
purpose of your letter was to persuade, Rick.
Yeah,
No.
your letter says removal of the mayor,
Ms. Godek,
city
it
council
wasn't.
would be able to remove the mayor from office, period. There is no background to it, just that we're just removing the mayor from office.
Just
That's
a
it.
reference to saying, this is not the whole quote, and here's the reference to go read what the whole
But you're
section is
saying that
about.
this explanation is off. I'm going to tell you that your single sentence is not fair either. I mean, that is bias beyond bias.
I think you just don't like the facts that council created.
You
That's what I-
didn't give more context to it. That's
No,
not
I did-
fair. That turns it into propaganda.
The first statement is an actual, factual statement. You challenged me last time, Mr. Mayor. What is not factual about your letter?
Because my letter, what is not factual about this, relative to what it is, whether it's factual or not, it is not appropriate in this letter.
Why?
Because that is, with all apologies to Ms. Godek, that context is intended to persuade. That is what that paragraph is for. Nothing more than to persuade. You can say, oh, it's putting into context, but that context is intended to put it to persuade as to why what follows is going to be reasonable, because everybody does this. That persuasive attempt is advocacy.
It's a factual statement.
Oh my God.
This whole thing is a story.
It's a story. Just gonna be hard for the reporter. It's an interesting
Are we on 19?
horrible exercise.
The second sentence says a factual statement. Many municipal charters provide a similar authority to remove elected officials, including the charter of Chagrin Falls. That's a factual statement again.
We're not going to agree on it, obviously. I think that is intended to persuade.
It's been.
That is why it's there, to persuade.
It's
to
been
inform.
suggested that these, that
No,
these,
to inform, and you are free to inform. You are free to inform, not using the city resources to inform.
Information.
That is what a campaign is about. That is what everything has been about
Mr. Mayor,
since council this thing.
Mr. Mayor,
Switched into a campaign.
Mr.
Yes,
Mayor,
Mr.
will you
Gentile.
please ask the audience
to,
be
please,
quiet?
it's difficult
Yes.
for us to talk.
Excuse me, ladies, I know this is long for you, but, we are conducting a meeting, so thank you.
I think the suggestion that some of these, that the recommendations of the commission were novel. That is what you were giving them with that sentence, is that this wasn't just an idea that they picked out of the air. This is something that is common in other community charters that are similar to ours, period. I don't think that that's advocacy. I think that it's directing them to look at another charter for comparison and then make an evaluation. So.
An explanation is not
Agreed.
What's next, Mr. Lemay?
Next paragraph, number 19, commission recommended the charter be amended.
I think that is accurate. Now, the limit or not, it's described circumstances. If you want to use the word limited, it's the phrase. There are circumstances absolutely involved.
and they are limited.
20.
So it's
They're described. I think limited is, now that you pointed that out, Mr. Gentile, they're very broad. They're described circumstances, like I said a moment ago. They're malfeasance, misfeasance, and nonfeasance. Each phrase itself is not defined. It's not limited.
There are some.
Because how you interpret
We'll get to it.
nonfeasance, let me give you an example. The charter now, under the replacement theory, says that the mayor must attend all city council meetings. Okay? That's now in the charter. It suggests that the mayor then, let's say the mayor goes on vacation. The mayor, I think, would need to ask permission from the city council to be absent from the meeting, because it is now commanded in the city charter that the mayor must attend. That's what it says. The mayor must attend. So now the mayor must seek relief before that mayor would miss a meeting. Otherwise, is that nonfeasance? I think arguably it is. Isn't that what it says? Must attend? You have it in front of you.
I don't have it in front of me.
Maybe the word is shall, not must.
Shall.
Same thing.
Is it?
Yeah, I went to law school. Shall is
Thank you.
must.
I did not. Thank you.
That's a problem. Because, and I'm not saying this, I'm not trying to cast an aspersion on this city council, but this charter repeal is building a charter for the ages. This collegial body is not always going to be what is operating the city necessarily. And there could come a time when there is a council president who seeks higher office and could say, well, gee, the mayor's not here. that mayor's on vacation. I think we should declare, three of us should say that that mayor is committing
So
nonfeasance.
you're assuming
Well,
that,
let me, I'm assuming, just like Mr. Gentili assumed, there could be a bad mayor in the future. I'm assuming there could be a bad council in the future. And that bad council could say, that mayor's gone for 2 weeks. I think we just passed that, three of those council members indicted the mayor essentially by saying, you know, he needs to be brought up on charges. That mayor has 10 days to respond to this. That mayor's gone for 2 weeks, sitting out in, you know, the Amalfi Coast in Italy. That by the time the mayor comes back, that president of council is sitting as the mayor. It's bad drafting. It shouldn't be written that way, Mr. Lemay.
It would need 6 votes.
So what?
Council.
So what?
For that
if you assume bad
You said-
faith,
you-
none of
you
this
said
works.
3 for the indictment. You didn't
Huh?
say the whole thing.
If you assume bad faith, nothing works.
Mr. Gentili assumed bad faith as to a bad mayor. We've had 2 mayors, I don't think, and you testified a month ago, Mr. Lemay, we've had 2 great mayors, the last 2 mayors. Those 2 mayors together served 34 years. We've only had, you know, a handful, literally, of mayors in 60 years. And all of a sudden, this repeal and replace is going to be premised upon the idea or the anticipation, oh, there's going to be a runaway mayor. Well, I say, if that runaway mayor is as bad as Mr. Gentili is suggesting, you get Carl Dietz back in here and you have him arrested because he's doing something illegal. You don't need this. That's how this should have been handled.
There is impeachment removal in the federal and 49 state constitutions.
Yes,
Is a very common provision. to
impeachment.
Impeachment and removal
Yes,
provisions.
in the federal system, I agree.
Federal and state systems.
I'm not as familiar with the state system.
systems. And my point is that all of these governmental entities have decided, in the worst case scenario, we need an ability to remove an official. And it could be a council member or a mayor, it's both, to protect the city from ongoing harm.
Okay,
If you is it possible it could be abused? Sure, it could be abused at the state level, the federal level. It's possible. It could be. That's the trade-off every state constitution has made. Because the risk of the harm to the state government by having an ongoing bad actor, and that's what this is about. It's a trade-off. I would agree with you. But it's a trade-off that the federal government, the federal constitution, and every state constitution has made, except maybe Oregon. I think Oregon may not have one, but that's the exception. So that all these legislatures, all these state governments, and many local governments have made the same decision to protect itself from that. Hopefully it will never happen, but worst case eventuality.
well, let me suggest why, and you've skipped ahead to the removal section in your comment. Let me suggest why what you're saying is inaccurate. Because in the and I'll speak to the federal system. I do not pretend to know the state systems. In the federal system, you have a bicameral legislature. Here we have a unicameral legislature. In the federal model, the House of Representatives indicts. The Senate runs the trial and convicts.
Right.
Here, in our unicameral, the single council will indict and convict. There's no check and balance to that process that is described in this proposed legislation. That is an enormous difference.
I would.
And
argue
no,
that-
that's let me finish. That's an enormous difference. If you'll recall, right now, the residents, if something is awry with the mayor, either through wrongful acts, not doing the job, whatever the reason is, has the ability to recall the mayor. That is a process. Mr. Byron pointed out that if there was when there was the discussion in council regarding the removal provision, that under state law, citizens can go and, or probably even the council, if you get enough signatures on a petition, just like the citizens, you file a complaint in the common police court, and a judge can issue an injunction and shut down that mayor right away. And ultimately, a trial is held before a judge or a jury, an impartial body, not the same council that indicted that wrongfully performing public official, and remove him from office. What is the problem with this removal procedure is that it doesn't have that check and balance. It's the council that does it all. And that's wrong. That is wrong. You need to have an impartial body making those types of decisions, and it should not be taken away from the residents of this city who have forever had that singular right to recall or remove a public official, be it a council person or a mayor. And by this provision, you are reducing the rights and of the residents of this city to make that judgment about their public officials. And excuse me, it is not up to any council person or me to remove public officials. They are elected by the people, and the people deserve to remove them. That's the way our government is intended to operate. This is wrong-headed, the way this repeal and replacement charter
That's
is.
not the way our government works. At the federal or the state or in many of our neighboring communities, it doesn't work that way.
But Mr. LeMay just made a comparison to the federal government. That is the way the federal government works.
It is the way the federal government works. But the risk we have to us is a court proceeding takes time and is far from certain.
Not a restraining order.
No, you still have to get a judge to issue it. You have to gather evidence and you have to present your case. And the judge may not. In the meantime, the ongoing harm to the city continues.
What is this harm?
This is for an outlier case. I think that's the whole point, is this is not intended to be used without some extreme event happening. That's why this is across all 49 of 50 states. How often have you heard of a governor getting impeached and removed? I can't recall, but,
I can.
okay. So,
See.
okay, so one time,
Please,
right?
please.
Okay. Or whatever, some small number of times. I mean, I don't understand any objection to these extremely logical, commonplace
You don't.
clauses.
Because in my opinion, you don't, and I think if council or the commission had gotten the input from the community, I don't think the community agrees with this. That, you and not they get to make a determination of removing elected officials. And I'm not saying it doesn't happen in other communities having this, this opportunity to do it. But the idea is that we're better than other communities. We're not driving down to the bottom and adopting, 80% of the other communities have this. Maybe that's a bad idea that they have.
This ensures.
Why are we adopting that?
This ensures we stay that good community. In the unfortunate example where we have a mayor or a council member who does not uphold the values that we all endorse here. It's that, as Jackie said, it's that worst case where there's ongoing harm to the city. And time is of the essence. And that's why they have it in state constitutions and federal constitutions. And many of our neighboring communities have this provision for that same reason.
There is nothing, filing a complaint and getting a temporary restraining order. It's almost, and I'm sorry, you almost disparagingly said, and have to get evidence. Well, I think before you remove a public official, you better have a lot of evidence
There's due
before you do
process.
that.
There's due process built into this.
10 days. 10 days. You think that's reasonable? 10 days for someone to be charged and build a defense and present it before the same body that indicted that person, and without any pre-established rules as to evidence, procedure, that person is just supposed to show up before the indicting body?
I think if
The decision is like, done.
If the harm is so immediate and important, then yeah, 10 days seems.
But what is the
eminently
harm?
reasonable.
I want to know. I keep hearing about this runaway
That's-
official, the harm. What is the
whole
harm?
point is that this is for some black swan type tail event. that is
But I don't know what
unlikely
that
to
means.
occur.
Excuse, I don't know what that means.
Neither do.
What is this event?
What the guy in Tennessee do?
Oh, my God.
Right, exactly.
All right, you're-
But it only took 2 months to get him out of office.
So,
And that was a governor of a state.
And that was a recall, right?
No, he was impeached.
Well, I mean-
He ended up having to resign because he was going to get impeached.
Okay. And that was your name,
It was
please?
a
Since
parole
you're
board.
speaking, she has to know your
He
name.
was buying parole. He was-
No, you're Patricia Stillman?
Yes.
And what's your address, please?
I'm sorry.
Your
address.
The clerk has to put down your,
32349 Pine Tree Road.
okay, thank you.
sorry to put you on the spot.
All right, audience,
Okay.
I request respectfully that everyone, keep their own counsel and not interfere with this deliberation.
Let's keep going, or we'll be here.
Yeah.
Ollie. So we are on paragraph beginning, like the impeachment power. Is that where we were?
Yes.
Do you have an objection to?
That's just advocacy.
uh,
You're just, these are guardrails, it's the same conversation. We don't have to have it again. You know my address.
That's a quote from the.
That's a quote from the report.
I think, I don't care if it's quote or not, that is advocacy. The commission is not charged to advocate one way or the other. They refuse to advocate, listen, I talked long enough, I finally see what my own point is. The commission was invited or requested by Mr. Newell to come before this body and testify as to why it did certain things. And in the minutes, the final minutes of that commission, it declined to do that. And the commission together said, reflecting its minutes, our report will speak for itself. We are not coming to testify. By your projecting that into this, it's more than a report. They are testifying without any cross-examination or inquiry being made as to the veracity or the reasonableness of a statement. That's not in any court that I've ever practiced in for 45 years. When people make statements, you get to discuss it and debate it.
This is,
And I think this is an advocacy statement that is not appropriate in this document.
what part of it is advocacy? Guardrails that protect the city.
Yeah. These removal provisions are guardrails that protect the city?
That's what,
You don't think that's an advocacy
that's what the
statement?
commission said.
I know it. They were advocating.
They were
Just because
describing, they were
said it
describing,
Doesn't mean that in the context of this document,
they
it's
described,
not
it
advocacy.
was a description of why they made that choice. They made the choice to protect the city.
That's just planting Easter eggs in a report that end up in a
What
letter
Easter
from
eggs?
council. That is advocacy. That's all that is.
It's them explaining why they did what they did. And it's a factual
All right.
statement.
Well, that's my thought about it. You asked it. I think the next sentence, that lawsuits and recalls have uncertain outcomes. So are you saying that the removal as exercised entered into by the council has a definite certain outcome? I didn't know that it was all preordained.
Of course not.
Well, that's what but you're criticizing in here that, well, a lawsuit or a recall, that's very uncertain. We know we're going to get that person
No.
if we remove him.
That's not what that says.
That's the
Come on.
implication, Jim.
Rick, you're being disingenuous. This
All right.
is embarrassing.
Over and over again, we're debating that this is an advocacy piece.
Well,
And you want me, so I'm advocating back at what this says. That's not embarrassing, Ms. Godick. That's demonstrating that this is advocacy because there's a different viewpoint that can be established about it.
I agree that it's been disingenuous. It has
Okay.
been from the start.
And I understand that, but that is why it's an election debate point. Go on.
Paragraph 21, we'll take all of them together. Safeguards built in.
Significant is the whole phrase, significant safeguards. That's in the eye of the beholder, I suppose.
Like your letter where it says significant changes, isn't that in the eye of the beholder too? Just like your statement? Significant changes it would make. That's in the eye of the beholder, right? So it's okay for you, not okay for us?
Safeguards is a word.
So the law director signs off on your use of significant.
The
But
law director
essentially,
hasn't opined on that
problematic
phrase. I'm telling you my opinion. The law director wants to reserve to see what the document says.
He approved the use of the word significant in your document. For him to not approve the word significant in this document makes no sense.
Well, Mr. Gentili, the reason why it possibly could make sense is because significant in my document modifies the word changes. Here, it modifies the word safeguards. Those are very different words that it's modifying.
Yeah, they
So
are.
I think potentially,
One
and
begins
I'm not
with
going
an
to
S
speak
and
for the
one
law
begins with a
director,
different.
it means different things. And I don't think that is embarrassing. I think that is the way I interpret the phrase.
But your interpretations have more weight than our interpretation of these.
All I have said is, I was asked my opinion, and I gave my opinion, Mr.
So
Gentili.
then the description is right from the charter. Do you have objection to the three descriptions?
I don't know what you said.
The headings first, second, and third are descriptions right from the charter.
The proposal, the
First, second, and third, yeah.
proposed, if that's the language, that's the language. If the whole thing was like that, we could have had a shorter conversation like this.
Removal of appointed officials?
I think that's inappropriate.
They can't have catastrophic consequences?
Sure it can, but that's not what should be in this letter.
Why? It's saying why it's important to have this provision. It's not helpful unless you say why. And this is what.
This is
the
not, this
explanation.
document is not intended to be helpful. This, in that sense of arguing the point, this document is intended to point out to people, these are provisions of the replacement charter. Here's where you can find it. That is what the prior letter did. Mr. Gentili, you, someone else, Ms. Zatrock said, oh, you omitted things. Fine, put in whatever you think was omitted and make a reference to it.
So when
And
we-
I'm good.
So we did the sidewalk mailing with city resources that went through and said, here's the pros and cons of each side. Informational to describe the pros and cons of each side's position. And there was no issue with that.
That was
Sit out with city resources on city paper and city funded.
That was a totally different initiative.
It was
That
city-
was an informational referendum. It was not a binding referendum. It's,
In the law, that makes absolutely no difference.
well, that's
That's
your
all.
legal conclusion. I don't necessarily agree with that.
There is no law on that. There is no law. A
Well,
vote is a vote is a vote. I have researched this. There is not one scintilla
are
evidence.
you going to give me a memorandum on it?
Well, tell
I
me.
don't,
This is a public vote. There is no distinction between those, Rick. Absolutely none. And we use city resources to provide an explanatory letter to all our residents that provided context and an explanation of why some people wanted sidewalks and why some people didn't want sidewalks.
now you and I had agreed at a prior meeting that we were going to try to put together an FAQ that would neutrally present things and That has not happened. And I said, yeah, I'd engage in that process with you.
But you
This,
and Ed
this
put
is
out
not that,
yours.
this is not that process.
But wait, you're talking apples oranges now. You approved a letter that went to our residents that had explanatory paragraphs as to the pros and cons of sidewalks.
I'd have to go back to the letter, Jim, to be
No,
honest. I
it's,
don't remember.
it's
it that
4
well.
pages long and it has lots of explanations. Sidewalks could be good for these reasons, could be bad for these reasons. Both sides had their say in that. Informational, explanational, sent out to every resident with city resources.
I did not recall that to be an advocacy piece.
But you're objecting to an explanation. You're objecting. To an explanation.
I'm objecting to what's in this letter that you haven't.
Well, you're objecting because it's an explanation. You're saying.
No, I'm objecting because the explanation is advocating for a position. You say can provide, and if not performed properly, can have serious and potentially catastrophic consequences for the city.
That's a true
I
statement.
guess. But
And
does it belong in here?
The sidewalk.
And then you
letter-
say, as an example, in 2010, Pepper Pike ran out of cash.
Right. And in the,
Well,
in
we
the
actually didn't
sidewalk
run out
letter,
of cash. We had $3 million
there were
when
statements
we came into
on,
office.
on the concept that said sidewalks to do these great things or don't do these great things.
But here you
But
say
that-
we ran out of cash. We didn't run out of cash.
Nearly ran out of cash.
No, you say ran out of cash.
Nearly. Should I add
No, you don't
nearly?
say,
You're good with
you don't
it?
say nearly. You say ran out of cash.
He's willing to put in.
How much cash did we have at that point, Mr. Brzezinski?
Well, I mean, if
It
you,
wasn't here.
if you simply look, well, it was around $3 million. And if you look at the GFOA, they say anywhere from 5 to 20% of your ongoing expenditures, and $3 million would have more than covered that.
Thank you.
Then why were we laying off police officers if cash wasn't an issue?
Well, I guess that's a question for the former administration and council.
Right.
If he adds
We're
the
laying
word,
off police officers,
if we add the word
furloughing,
nearly. does
cutting
that
the pay.
Satisfy your objection.
I would think we wouldn't be laying off police officers if cash wasn't an issue.
And cutting people's.
Well, I don't know that
salaries by
someone didn't hit the
50%.
brakes going 100 miles an hour.
Well, my point is, all these explanations that were in the sidewalk letter are very parallel to these explanations in here, and they weren't considered advocacy.
Okay, let's go through your letter. Let's not debate. You've asked for where I object, and I'm telling you.
Good. Paragraph 20, bottom of page 3, under the city executive charter, the objections there.
I think the first sentence is accurate. I don't know why it's in here, but I think it's accurate.
Second sentence is accurate.
I don't know what that not the preferences of any individual is supposed to mean.
So it's the overall best interest of the city, not any council member, not just the mayor.
Factually, I'm not saying it's not an accurate statement. What I'm saying is simply that I don't think it necessarily belongs in this letter. When I see your revised letter, maybe I'll get comfortable with it. I need to see the letter as revised. I don't agree with the next sentence at all should be in here. That it caused the commission to recommend 2 charter changes. Because of the private emails that I have begun to review that were turned in by the commission to the city, I don't know that that is the reason those charter changes were recommended or made. That's why.
Okay, well, I'll find a reference in the report to that.
Well, okay.
Next paragraph.
Is that in reference to the replacement charter?
The one beginning with the word first?
Yeah.
That's in, yeah, that's the replacement charter. That, the reference up above has a colon after it, so it's describing that change is made.
I have no idea what this whistleblower business that you're describing there even means. What does that even mean?
That means that if the mayor were to fire the finance director because he told the mayor about some improper accounting that had occurred, or the mayor wished to have occur, the council would want to know that and be able to protect that person for doing the right thing.
Well, what about the second thing, though? But the council can, without any involvement of the mayor, simply remove the finance and the law director on its own, without cause stated,
Are we talking
without
about
due process.
Advocacy here again, or are we talking?
No, I'm saying what's wrong in this statement. This is like an advocacy statement because it really, this whole whistleblower thing is like made out of whole cloth, so far as I'm concerned. It's just advocacy. It's like postulating some scenario that
Once again-
doesn't exist, may exist, could exist. I think that it's
explaining
just
why the clause
doesn't
was
belong in
adopted.
there.
It's not advocacy, it's explaining why the clause was adopted.
Does the word whistleblower bother you? Because if you take whistleblower out, the sentence still reads clearly.
What if and let me ask you, just a point of curiosity, what if a finance director does something wrong at the insistence of a president of council or a finance director or a finance committee member?
He
What
doesn't-
protection is there against, we don't want,
Why would?
why is it not reflective one way or the other? I don't
The finance director
understand that.
reports to you is why, and he has no obligation to do anything at the direction of a councilman.
Not under this charter. Under this replacement charter, the council has supreme authority over the finance director because the council can fire the finance director without cause, without due process. Council has ultimate authority over the finance director.
So if in a situation in which as occurred in 2010, the city is about to run out of cash and the mayor is doing absolutely nothing about it, and we find out the case and the finance director is nothing about it either and just going to let it happen, again, one of the extreme cases, the council needs to take action.
The council, that's my point. The council is now exercising executive authority. Once again, this, it's never going to happen, but this is extreme, and we have to have this safeguard, so the council is going to have this unique all power over executive employees, not the mayor, not the CEO as he's described elsewhere in this letter.
Again,
The council gets to,
arguing provisions, not whether this is advocacy. You're arguing.
I'm sorry.
You're arguing the provisions of the charter, not advocacy or not advocacy. You've personalized this, which is a mistake.
the advocacy part would be this protects the city if the mayor tolerates conduct of the finance or law director that puts the city at risk.
Correct.
That's advocacy.
Why? It explains what the purpose of the clause is.
You're advocating that that's what the clause means.
Well,
I can see, yeah, that's an explanation for the clause,
Yes.
but that explanation is advocacy.
No,
That's
it's
what
an accurate
advocacy is.
explanation of why the clause exists.
All right. We're not going to agree as to what advocacy
Review the
means.
sidewalk letter, which the city put out at its expense. And we're going to bring that next time and compare that.
Okay, right now we're talking about this
I
letter,
understand.
not a letter that went out 3 years ago.
The comparison is apt because it went out with no objections to using city funds to send that out. It's an apt comparison, because this is the same thing. We're sending out a letter. You took it upon yourself.
I don't know that that was an advocacy piece. I don't know it, Chumming. I don't know.
We'll get it next time.
Look, you took it upon yourself to send out a letter without input from council, which was the process that we used the other time. Now we want to send out a letter, as you said, that I asked you if I could send out something to push back on your veto letter, and you let me. Thank
Right,
you.
'cause
Thank you for that.
And that wasn't legislation. That was up for a vote on an election. I thought it was appropriate. You wanted to push back on either individually or on behalf of council. You signed it individually. I think it was interpreted as generally on behalf of council. That was okay. I didn't have an issue with that. I didn't have an issue with it.
But the point is, it had numerous explanatory sentences as to why Tony had a problem with your first message.
But that wasn't an issue on a ballot.
It's using
They're
city.
totally different circumstances, Mr. Lemay.
Okay, well, the sidewalk was on the
The
ballot.
point is that the letter that you sent out wasn't a collaborative letter like we used for the sidewalks.
I'm sorry
And
you
that
felt
is-
that way.
and
It was
that
not
is-
intended to be non-collaborative or lacking in
No
anything.
one had
Here
any.
here comes
No
the
input.
disingenuousness again
Yeah.
Okay,
in spades.
all right.
I
You-
think
you-
that this
You got,
was-
you got
was
insulted by
collaborative.
it. I didn't create the facts that were described in that letter. So I'm not going to say I'm
wrote it.
sorry for the facts. I stated the facts that
The
existed.
process is what you're not understanding or pretending not to understand.
Mayor, what compelled you to write that letter and send it without going over it with all of us? Like, I mean, because we worked together on the sidewalks thing. What compelled you to send that out without?
Because I thought it was urgent that the
No.
city, I thought there's a sense of urgency that the city see that this is on a ballot coming up right now in 3 weeks, that half of the city still doesn't know exists.
3 weeks?
4
What's
weeks.
in 3
Early
weeks?
voting starts March 26th.
No,
What
it
is
No,
it?
it doesn't. April
April
6th,
7th.
7th.
No. No.
April 7th, I was told by the Board of Elections.
What's
Yeah.
March 26th?
April.
And Mayor, I asked.
Mail-in
I asked-
ballots are available on March 26th. I'm sorry.
They aren't,
Counted.
you can't count them until April 7th.
Well, April 7th, I believe, is when
Absentee
you can't
voting
count
by
them.
mail begins on April
Well, you
8th.
can't count them, Mr.
April
Gentile.
8th.
You can't count them, but the mail-in ballots are available prior to the end of March. I think I'm saying the right date, March
Military and
26th.
overseas, absentee voting by mail begins April 8th. Plenty of time to collaborate on a communication from the council and mayor all
Okay.
together.
And Mr. Mayor, I want to make a statement. I asked you at a council meeting before your letter went out, had the commission's report gone out to the public? And you said yes, but it hadn't.
It had two.
It had not. It had not. Because
It
I
did
checked
too.
my
It went out,
email.
it did too go out.
I checked my email. Let me finish. I checked my email and my wife's email. We both get the Pepper Pike Post. We both get your emails. Nothing came out. Then shortly after that, it came out with your letter.
No, you're
Yes.
wrong.
Yeah, no, I'm not wrong.
All right.
Let's keep going.
You still didn't answer my question. What compelled you to, just because you?
It
thought
went
there was
out,
an urgency?
excuse me 1 second, Dr. Wong. I'm going to answer him. It went out at the request of the Charter Commission. It went out on one of those emails.
It did not.
It did too.
We can research that.
I think what's best is maybe taking down that letter that you've published and we
All right.
create a collaborative
All right,
letter together.
we're going to finish this. We're not going into side
I'd like to,
corners here.
what Dr. Wong said is exactly what I advocate as well. It should have been a complete collaborative effort. I'm hoping that we can do that tonight. But it should be, this whole informational document to the residents should be a collaboration of everybody here.
All right, let's finish.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you.
Planning Commission reform.
Yep. We're almost done, audience. The first statement is fine. It's an introduction. It's fine.
Next paragraph.
Yes. I'm sorry.
Is it okay?
The whole thing?
It is generally considered, that paragraph?
Oh, I don't know about the best practice thing. I don't know that that's considered a best practice. You may have some unique knowledge about that. I don't know that.
That's from Steve Byron.
That's from where?
Steve Byron. No political control is ideal, and less is better. At one point, the commission was advocating 2 elected officials on the planning commission, and Steve Byron vigorously argued that that was not a good idea.
Is that, but was that in context of Steve's recommendation that there should be a board of zoning appeals?
No, it was in the context of putting 2 council places,
Yeah.
2 elected officials on this planning commission.
See, I was not at those meetings, so
Well,
I was not at those meetings.
I get it,
I
but
don't know.
he vigorously argued that that was a really bad idea, and they took
I'd agree with that.
They took his advice, and he advocated for these very reasons, because the court, the more independent it is, the more likely its decisions are going to be upheld by court. And he convinced the commission to cut the elected officials from 2 to 1 in the revised charter.
But you're right, my independent thought was that the BZA would be the best practice where you have no political officials making an administrative decision.
But you also
And that was rejected by the commission, right?
But you also opined on the planning commission, this commission, that
Two would have been worse than 1.
yes.
I believe the mayor appoints resident members with the approval of council, if my recollection is correct.
That's true. You think that's missing?
I do.
Oh, to provide
If
context?
you ask me about this sentence, I think the whole thing is like,
So you want.
should be part of a campaign.
You want the whole
statement,
clause, not just
this.
part of the clause. Because leaving that out might be misleading, is what you're suggesting.
No, but the letter that you're, referencing back to what I sent didn't have this sort of comment in it, basically.
Otherwise, okay, accurate?
No, council approves all those advisors too. Our planning commission has the city planner, the engineer, and the law director. So the mayor doesn't hire them.
City planner is
The
subject to,
mayor doesn't hire them. That's not accurate.
who does hire them?
I think council approves the
Well,
hiring.
you hire them and we approve it. You hire them. It's your
Fine.
selection.
Fine, that's true. Why is that even in here? You're putting this in here to suggest that the mayor is dominating the planning commission. And that's not true. It's creating a false impression for the people reading this.
I'll find that was the impression of the commission.
Right, and they never asked any member of the planning commission other than Ms. Weltman, what was going on in the planning commission. Dr. Taylor, who has served for 41 years, was not interviewed or requested for information. Howard Katz, a 45-year Harvard-trained law professor who specializes in teaching land use planning and zoning, was not requested any comment or interview by the commission. Mr. Millsop, who is, the retired head of an international design and build firm, and for years on the commission, many more than Ms. Weltman, was not asked for an opinion. Instead, it was our 2.5, going on 3-year council person who said that the law
She's not
director.
here to.
I don't think you
That's
should
not,
disparage
that is,
Ms. Weltman
again,
and
not,
her
not
actions.
a
Well,
fair
but wait a
thing to
minute,
say.
Mr. Mayor, you were asked for your opinion.
Not
And
on
you-
the planning commission?
You sure were. You
No.
had input on the entire document and you
No.
declined to give any.
On the entire document.
You were asked for input on the Charter Review Commission document.
I never knew they were talking about the planning and
Well,
zoning
you-
It was on
commission.
their agenda.
It's on
Don't
the
tell me that you
agenda.
didn't know that they were talking about it. It was, their agenda
wasn't at the meeting.
spelled out.
Well, that was your choice.
Oh, just like it was the choice of all the residents not to come to a meeting?
Mr. Mayor,
Because that morning I had other
Yeah.
meetings
you
to go
stopped it.
to?
You stopped attending meetings halfway through.
Because I had to get back to my job operating this city, and I couldn't spend every morning in a jammed 2.5, 3-month process coming to these meetings.
So you were asked for input.
No, not about this was I ever, it was the obligation of that commission. It was the obligation of this council in your review of the commission report to make the necessary inquiries, to make the deep dives, to understand these recommendations before the council put this thing on the ballot. I think the commission failed in its obligations, and politely, and not meaning to be harsh, this council failed in its obligation to investigate what the basis of the recommendations of this commission were.
You're still advocating for your position. You're still personalizing this, and you're making.
I didn't say anything about me. I'm talking about this council and the
I'm
commission.
interpreting your actions, Mayor.
But Rick,
I'm
you're
interpreting
chair
that
of the
you are
planning
advocating
commission. This was on the
for your
agenda.
position.
So you think it's wrong for the mayor to be the chair of the planning commission?
No. I think it was wrong for you not to show up and take this position, so they had your input. You had every opportunity to do that.
I
And you could have
disagree.
represented
I
the,
just totally disagree with you, Mr. LeMay. This is why places like Gates Mills take 2 years to run a planning commission, so that they can get the input from the whole community, any elected official that they want. That's why it takes a long time. It doesn't take 3.5 months. And if you recall, when this commission was established, Mr. LeMay agreed that this was too jammed a time in order to do the type of deliberative process necessary.
And you learned in the process that wasn't a great assessment.
There wasn't a,
He learned in the process, in observing
Well,
the process, that it wasn't. the
yeah,
right-
and I don't think we're going to,
And-
I don't want to
and
get personal here, and I'm not going
Village
to
in-
talk
in
about,
5 months amends their charter.
I don't want to get personal here, Tony, and
And-
I'm not going to get into that.
and I guess I underestimated,
You got personal.
I underestimated the talent that was attracted to that commission. Matt Vanzana, Cindy Eichhoff, Howard Bochnick, Scott Bilski, Dagmar Fellows, Robert Resnick, Stephanie Jarrett, Tamara Harmnick, and Dr. Gary Hoffman. That's like the who's who of public officials, public advocates who have lived in our city for many, many years, served on many charitable boards and commissions, including the school board, donated their time, and they had no mission, no interest other than making Pepper Pike better. They worked very hard at this, very diligently at this. I was at every meeting, and never have I seen a harder working group of people or one more qualified to make careful and deliberative judgments, and that's what they did.
The issue is not how hard they worked, it's how well their work produced a result. And when I saw the emails sent on the private email servers back and forth between council member liaisons and certain commission members, and became aware that, and you know what, you turned in your own stuff this week, Mr. LeMay, to see that basically you drafted the changes to Article 5, to the president of council, to, there was another article, was it 7?
Every member.
I think, of course, they performed well in your opinion. You wrote what they did.
That's false. That is false.
I'm
That
holding
is a
the red
slanderous
lines,
lie.
Jim. I'm holding the red
I
lines.
didn't write what they did. Every member of council made submissions to that commission. Every member of council made submissions to that commission of what they thought they would change. My submissions, because I've been a lawyer for 40 years, were language. Some was adopted, all usually with modifications, and some was rejected totally. Everyone on this council gave them submissions about what could change in the charter.
And some were adopted in entirety, like Mr. Gentili's budget provision that he exchanged back and forth with Ms. Eichhoff and Mr. Bilski. And it was adopted in whole by the commission, without comment, almost without any discussion reflected in the minutes.
I'd like there to be a reminder that for some members, their city email was not working, which they had talked about in a public meeting, and I think forced some of the members to communicate in a different method. So I'm just going to leave it at that.
When that was brought up to
I'm
the
just going to leave it at
administration,
that.
we immediately placed our IT firm, BPI, in contact with those people. I think it was 2 times it was brought to our attention, and we immediately put BPI on it. And to my understanding, it was resolved. There were months and months of these email exchanges going back and forth in the Zatrock that do not relate to some temporary, down of the email system. And if there was a problem with the email system, it should have been brought more frequently to the attention of the administration, and we would have had BPI address it more frequently.
And as you did in your letter that transmitted this, you haven't given any context for what I drafted. You aren't aware of the conversations in the meeting where I was asked to draft that.
Yeah.
And I ran it by a couple of people to see if it made sense.
Yeah, it was unfortunate, Mr. Gentili, when I read the email from Mr. Bilski to you, which said, wait until Bain and Brzezinski see this, with a big smiley face. I think that kind of reflected not the most open and good intent in the way that provision was drafted. And if the commission wanted to know about, the reaction of maybe our finance director to the charge being placed upon our finance department, not him personally, but on the finance department to respond to those things that will now be built into the charter, not an ordinance or a request by council, oh, we want to see a different type of report and have that discussed. Instead, it is built into the charter. Well, what if a future, and I know, and I understand that maybe you or Mr. Bilski or whoever else currently wants to see those reports. I get that. But what if in 15 years, whatever council says, we don't want to see that? The obligation is still on the finance department to have to generate that stuff.
No, every 6 years, the charter is reviewed.
And the
so that'll be
reason
changed.
that was changed was because the administration didn't comply with the dictates of the charter in submitting this year's budget, and it hasn't done it for years.
That is false. That is false. And it was wrong of you to make that accusation at the budget meeting, since you have been on this council for all those years, the last 13 years, and you were apparently fine with the reports and the budget process.
I have
going forward.
never been fine with the reports, and you
So
know
what
it.
you're reflecting is that this is your own personal unhappiness with something, and you're taking that and building into the charter of the city.
No, I'm
And I
not.
think that's the worst reason we can change.
No,
the
I'm
charter of
not.
the
I
city.
studied the charter over the last year, and I found where the administration isn't in compliance with all of its provisions. This was an important one, which I brought to our attention at that meeting.
I want to finish this, but
Yeah, let's finish this.
But the implication that the commission members, the Vanzana, Eichhoff, Hotchkiss, Bilski, Fellows, Resnick, Jarrett, Heinrich, and can't think for themselves and deliberately consider these provisions. That's just a slander on the commission. They are hardworking, thoughtful, careful, deliberate people, and there's 9 of them to consider all of these clauses and provisions and come to a conclusion.
So is it your position that the entire community should simply defer to what these 9 residents recommended?
No, they have a choice. They have a vote.
Well, they get to vote and say, no, we don't agree with that.
Correct.
Or yes,
Okay,
we do.
so what's wrong with my saying I don't agree with them?
let's finish.
Can't say it in an email
Okay, planning also
to
serves.
the community.
Rick, I'm at the paragraph, planning also serves. You okay with that paragraph?
Yeah.
Next paragraph, to enhance.
Yeah, my same objection, always.
Which is,
It's advocacy. To enhance the independence of the planning and address the conflict of interest issue. It's just, yeah, I understand that that's your view, and it may have been the view of the commission, but
but if it's
their view is not what is to be voted on. That's to be campaigned about, but that is not what is to be voted on.
but it's, again, once again, it's describing the view of the commission into why they put a provision in there.
I understand that. I think the mischaracterizations, if you want to say it was a complex task, period, I have no problem. And the fully informed, of course. Why don't you, my recommendation or suggestion is that you, if you want to tune this up based on our conversation and the comments of the law director, I welcome that. We have a couple weeks to take a look at it before we try to come to a resolution. I'm happy to engage with you during that period and try to come up with something that's comfortable.
Okay.
While we're doing that, can we take down your letter from the website?
It's a public document. It's on the website. I don't know what your,
I mean, it should just be just the charter red line and just,
Well, let's see what we come up with here, because I'm okay if we can have contrasting letters and that clarifies it for the moment. I understand what you're saying.
You can't delay this too long,
I know.
and the objections will be the same.
okay. All right, we're going to move on to the discussion of town hall meetings regarding proposed revisions to the Pepper Pike Charter. Which council person would like to lead that discussion?
I asked for this to be on, so I will.
Thank you.
I contacted the Orange School District, and I have a permit form here. And I'm recommending, as I did last week, that we choose April 2nd and 5th. The 5th is a Saturday, and do that at 9 o'clock, and do the 2nd at 7 o'clock in the evening, and March 12th. And I don't know, I filled out part of it, but I think this has to come from the administration.
Yeah, it would have been, yes.
Yeah.
Hmm?
Can you do the dates and times one more time, Tony,
March
please?
12th, April
7?
2nd.
At 7 on the 12th or in the morning? What are you thinking for the 12th? In the
The
evening?
12th is the evening.
Evening.
Is the evening,
Okay.
7 o'clock. April 2nd is the evening meeting, and that would be at 7 o'clock. And the April 5th meeting is a Saturday, and that would be at 9 o'clock.
Thank you.
Those are my thoughts. I don't know if we have to vote on those
could we
or how we want
possibly
to.
change the March 12th?
To
Any other,
Calendars.
the following week?
the following week interferes with the spring break. That's the
Or
issue with that.
maybe that Monday?
There's no, there's, Orange schools are on spring break the week of the 24th.
Correct.
I was told that the private schools are in spring break the prior week.
Okay.
Monday,
they-
March 10th?
That's okay.
What time on that?
The 5th, 9 a.m. That's what Tony said.
Thank you.
I think that if we can get most,
Okay, yeah.
if it's,
Whatever.
yeah. I appreciate you putting the dates together, Tony, and finding a location for, to
Yeah,
host.
and this would be in the Brady cafeteria.
Pretty cafeteria, okay. So what do we have to do to make, select it?
Whoever would fill this out and sign it.
Rick, are you okay with those dates and doing it at Brady Cafeteria?
I'm just double checking the dates for myself. March 12th.
Are you changing the 12th to the 10th?
No.
I don't know, we'll have to discuss that.
What day of the week is that?
Wednesday, I guess.
Monday's the,
You had March 12th, April 2nd, and April 5th, right?
Correct.
And then Kathy asked to change March 12th to March 10th.
Is everybody okay with March 10th as opposed to March 12th?
Since you had the communications with the school, was that date available for them?
I did not clear the dates with them because I don't have the authority to do that. That'll have to be done by your office.
Did you have any discussion with them about any of these dates?
Yes,
You were talking to someone.
I talked to someone and they said.
So
that they
tell
would-
me,
they
so
would-
that we can communicate, because you're right. Generally, we have that communication. I don't know who you were talking to.
I
So
will,
tell me who you're talking to so we can make this arrangement.
I will give Sheila the name tomorrow. I don't have it.
Can you just tell us the
I
name?
don't know her name off the top of my
Okay.
head.
All right, you'll tell Sheila. So you would, Dr. Wong, you would prefer March 10th. Would that again be at 7 o'clock?
Evening meetings would be at 7. Saturday would be, or weekday meetings would be at 7. Saturday at 9.
Okay. Okay.
And we have to tell them how long we want to reserve the room. I thought 2 hours.
I think 7 to 9 would be,
That's why I said 7 instead of 7:30.
7 p.m.
Dr. Wong, I know 7 is sometimes a challenging hour for you. Is that okay?
That is fine. I'll get there when I can.
Okay. Okay.
So you'll follow up on that, Rick, just to see if those are available or?
Yeah,
Sheila or-
I'll check up on the availability of that
Okay.
and, or the folks will. And, go from there. Okay. The next agenda item is questions and comments on the proposed revisions to the city charter. We've dismissed our committees and department heads. So, Mr. Lemay asked for this, and I don't know what it means.
Well,
I set this thing up, but I don't know what you mean by it.
Given that we just spent 2.5 hours on the letter, I'm pretty much ready to defer this till the next meeting unless
Okay.
council.
Is it
wants to
something
have
we can just defer to the open house
Or defer it.
or not open house,
Let's-
town hall?
Let's put it on for the next council meeting, and I will give you some more information about what.
Yeah, I don't know what you
That's
envision
fine.
this
That's fine.
being. Do I need this podium or can I get rid of that?
No,
for the
no.
next-
Is that what that's there for?
Yeah, I didn't know what you meant by it.
I like the
Well-
setup.
We'll talk before the next meeting. Okay.
Can I just ask a time question? Sorry.
Hold on, just hold on.
You'll have audience comments later.
Yes.
Just go ahead with that.
Yes. Okay. All right. I don't have any comments. We've talked a lot. Hold on, Mr. Council, do you have any more comments you want to make in this session? Oh, I didn't do the committees.
I have
Let
a
me do-
committee
let-
update.
Let me do
It
the
is
committees. I
brief.
apologize.
But that way I can do it. Oh, is it, okay.
Yeah,
Are
we're
we
doing the
two there? Okay.
committee report.
I'm on.
Ms. Zatrock?
So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Parks and Beautification Committee held a meeting at 7 p.m. last night here at City Hall. We discussed the Pepper Pike cemeteries. One resident member has spent quite a bit of time researching veteran grave sites and locations and has offered to create a map of those locations. Truly a worthwhile effort. We also discussed park benches. The committee will be making a recommendation regarding benches very soon. We're continuing to work on planning educational community events. We've determined our first program topic will be deer-proof/resistant gardens. We're aiming to host this event late April, early May. More details will be coming as we secure the speaker and the facility for the event. So please stay tuned, and we do hope that you will participate in the program. Our next committee meeting is scheduled for March 18th at 7 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Lemay, you had a finance meeting
Yes.
tonight.
We had a finance committee meeting prior to this meeting. It's early in the year, only 1 month have been reported. No quirks or anomalies so far. 1/12 is 1/12 still. And we had a nice discussion on the bond retirement fund to understand the mechanics of that.
I had one question. There was an expenditure out of the ARPA fund in January. Do you know what that was?
Tony, give me a call. I constantly ask you every month to give me a call, and you wait for the council meeting. Please call me or I will look.
I think I, as a councilman, get to ask you the questions when I want to, because I
Okay,
think.
well,
I
then
think,
I'll answer then
I think
tomorrow.
I think that all of council might benefit from the answer. That's
I'll send
why.
it to all the council.
All right. Well, please do follow up this time.
I follow up all the time with Tony.
No, you don't.
Yeah, I do.
Thank you, Mr. Lemay. We now turn to audience comments.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see you there. Oh, you scheduled something.
Yes, tomorrow here at 7:30 PM, the first meeting of the Communications Committee for this year will take place. You are all welcome to come if you'd like. We will talk about sort of the scope of what the Communications Committee is going to do. And it does involve, as you noticed, tonight we had a little difficulty with the feedback from the speaker system. That details like that are things that we're going to talk about, but it's also more how we can communicate better with residents, both here in person and also electronically. And we're looking forward to hearing what all of you have to say.
So the mayor and council have always welcomed feedback.
Yes.
Wow. Wow, Steve.
Sorry, had to.
Wow.
You're suggesting he's looking to limit feedback? I will defend him. I don't believe that's true.
Mischaracterization.
I have a quick question. Have we installed the sort of dog poop bags, little garbage cans along Gates Mills Trail yet?
I think he's not here now because I think
Right.
Service has ordered things, but
Okay.
because of the winter
Right.
weather, they have to wait for the ground to unfreeze and all that stuff.
Okay, just in process.
Yeah.
Great, thanks.
The brings us to audience comments. I would ask that anyone, since
Council
we went
comments?
to the,
Mayor?
I'm sorry.
Council comments?
Oh, I thought we were done. I'm sorry.
I didn't hear you ask for them. I just wanted to make a couple comments. That I was impressed with the City Hall renovation design presented by the Levelhead firm. Troubling to me was the statement that the cost would be significantly greater than the Bielowski plan. I think it would be a good business decision by the city to request proposals from at least 2 other firms. These proposals would be at no cost to the city. The same as was the case with Levelhead. Architectural firms try to get business in this way as a matter of course. I did have one question about the Levelhead presentation. They made an issue of keeping the fireplace, and I'm not sure why. I've never heard that the fireplace is an important feature of this council chambers, and personally would not insist on keeping it if costs could be saved. I also wanted to state for the record that the modification of City Hall was first proposed by the administration and not by official act of any of the council.
While we brought forward an architect, It was something that had been discussed at council before, Mr. Gentili. Any other council comments? We turn now to audience comments, if any. I would ask that audience members take advantage of the microphone and approach the microphone one at a time. You don't have to line up. If you have something to say, and address your comments.
All right, my name is Sandeep Modi, 2450 Cedar Lakes. I have three.
Off the mic a little because it's really loud.
Okay, sorry. 3 points. I think first, all this dialogue was on what is going on this website. Nobody is reading the website. Okay, I think there is a huge, I don't know if it's real, but delusional fact here that residents know what is happening with the charter. 8 out of 10, maybe 9 out of 10 have no idea that this is even on a ballot, let alone the May ballot. 2, I'm disturbed that it is on the May ballot. Looking at the data in the historical Pepper Pike elections, 28%, under 30% show up on the May ballot or May election cycle. That goes up to 60+% in the November cycle. So it doesn't make sense why something of this magnitude is on a May ballot. And then third, the part that troubles me with the revision is this president of city council role. While it may have merit, it's not a publicly elected figure by voters. So I don't know how you reconcile that and educate the residents on why that would be non-electable versus the mayor is electable. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Go ahead. Did you say the same?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Heidi Arnold, 30496 West Landerwood, Pepper Pike. I have a question in regards to sending out information in terms of, you guys mentioned 30 days prior to the election, sending out the ballot information. I'm just trying to figure this out with town halls and civically awareness. So if early voting starts on April 8th, then does that mean you guys have to have it postmarked to go out the ballot information by March 8th? And if so, just wondering about that as I look at all the town hall times that have been suggested and again, when people start voting.
It's a statutory proceeding, constitutional proceeding, where we have to send out the thing. I think that's already underway.
Oh, okay.
Simply the red line has to go out, so it's gone out.
Do you have a date on that, Steve?
Yeah, that was just, I guess, what I was wondering.
30, the Constitution says 30 days before the election.
Before the election?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, there are
Before.
options. To get the full text of the changes, it's 30 days. You could also advertise, you could put all of the charter amendments into the newspaper. And I think the more economic issue has chosen to just say, here's the red line of what the changes are.
Okay, so it doesn't take into account early voting then, because it's a constitutional provision.
Yeah, that's what I was
wondering.
wondering.
I think it says before
Because of
the
that,
election.
We have already taken to send it out, Jim, because of the early voting.
Yeah.
Earlier than required.
Yes.
Okay, so the next
Do you have a
week or
date
so.
that it's going to go?
I think it's in a mailing outfit now to
Okay,
do
but
it.
is it like next week or what?
Within a few days, I think they.
Oh, within a few days it'll go out.
Yeah.
Is it only
okay.
the red line or is there an
Just the red line.
additional?
No cover letter or anything.
I think the cover letter
notification?
simply says, this is on a May ballot. This is a ballot initiative. There's nothing about it.
Okay.
Otherwise, it'd just be.
Notice.
They need to know why
piece
they're
of
getting
paper.
it.
They need to know why this is.
It's on the ballot and it's being provided in accordance with law.
That's what the cover note says. Okay. So they could get that as soon as next week, maybe, or
Yeah.
week after that?
It's a USPS.
Yeah.
That was another concern.
Right, right.
I got 2 months later letters.
Yeah, so did I. Yeah, okay.
And then just preview with these dates, that means that you and legally are going to be running your own town halls
We are fulfilling our legal obligations. Yes.
for the town halls, though. Meaning, because I asked about Civic League and you guys are talking about hosting your town halls and the legality.
Occurs in the city things, that is, you've been here, everyone has heard what the concerns are of the law director
Perfect.
about it, and council feels confident they can do it without
Excellent.
crossing a line. So that's-
Okay, thanks.
Civic League, I assume, is still doing a town hall, isn't it? Heidi? Ms.
Well,
Arnold?
it's to be discussed based on everything that's
Okay.
gone on in the past few weeks here.
Okay.
We will be holding our event we do every year because scholarship is the most important part that we do.
Okay, Bob Rice, 2445 Edgewood Trace. So does the charter need to be updated? Yes. I was at a council meeting a month ago, talked specifically to Ms. Weltman about her comments that we can't disrespect the commission, and went with the commission. And Emmy, you made a point that my gender's not even correct in the charter. You're right. And I went back and I listened to the YouTube. However, having talked to a number of lawyers for the last 3 years that you've been on the council, you could all have made administrative changes to the charter. What do we need? We need village to city, we need council member to councilman, and we need to update to for the Ohio law, right? I'm a no on this because of the process. Frankly, the long discussion tonight and all of this is because you did not do your job. You did not legislate. You have two jobs. You make a budget and approve a budget, and you make legislation. And you didn't legislate. You abdicated all your responsibility to the commission. This process should have been many council meetings going paragraph by paragraph, debating the goods, the bads, the pros, the cons, and having an actual debate, which the council didn't do. And that's why we're in this mess, and I'm a no. And now we're going to go in May and spend $5,500 because we don't want the council members that are up to have to defend it. Although, Scott, you actually said, put it on the November ballot because I think I should have to debate it. If you remember, when the Affordable Care Act was approved, our president, before he signed it, the current vice president had a little faux pas and said, this is a big effing deal. And he said it out loud. Well, this is a big effing deal. This is the biggest thing that's going on in Pepper Pike in the last 15 years. And you didn't give it the time. The commission had more time. You only took basically 3 weeks to debate it. You should have debated it, marked it up, debated it some more line by line. Sorry, Mr. LeMay, this is well written, but this is an advocacy piece. All right.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
Very good.
Hi, Patricia Stillman, 32349 Pine Tree Road in Pepper Pike. And after watching this, I feel like I'm a resident and you're supposed to represent us. And I would say you're not representing us and you should take this off the ballot in May and you need to start over. And I think the whole idea of a council president is very scary because you all seem to agree with each other. And the only person who has a debate is the mayor. And you're not listening to him. And we voted for him. He is our mayor and we appreciate him. So I just think if you have a president of the council at some point, you're going to all just agree with him because you're not going to want to disagree with him. And then he could possibly get rid of the mayor. And then it would take 2 years to vote for a new mayor. And you're not listening to us. You're just too engaged in your own thinking and your own egos. And it's very frustrating to watch. And that's why I'm for the mayor.
Is there anyone else? Sir.
Good evening. My name is Bruce Rinker, 30949 Pine Tree Road. And just by a brief introduction, some of you may know me, but I lived in the city for 5 years, moved away for 2, and then came back last year. And so I've tried to play some catch up in understanding the process. And the comments that I'm making tonight really just go to the process and what I see in some very stark terms. Starting with last spring, council initiated the Charter Review Commission. And I think the whole idea of initiating charter review is commendable, but I think it's important to point out, again, the facts of how this process played out. Council decided the composition, how to select, how to vote for, and ultimately did choose by voting 7 votes to the mayor's 1 vote, who would actually be on the commission. Council, by legislation, determined when the commission had to issue its report. There's been a lot of talk tonight about the hard work the commission has done. This is not to address whether or not it worked hard, but the work product that the commission came up with, produced in 17 meetings between July 31st and December 19th of last year. When you go to the minutes, and I read through them, all they show is that at every meeting, there were 2, maybe 3 residents actually attending and maybe having some input. There's been representations made that a lot of community input was solicited. And I heard what the mayor commented about tonight, what the data evidently show, and I heard another comment just a few minutes ago, is that on the city's website, soliciting input from the residents generally falls on deaf ears, or I should say blind eyes. Not a lot of people respond, in other words. The minutes show there's nothing in the record to show any other basis, none of the rationale. Some of the discussion tonight was really very illuminating. But the minutes of the commission have absolutely no documentation that a resident can look at to understand why the changes to the planning commission, why did the changes to the power of council to remove certain people. I get the idea. I was a mayor for 23 years in the community that had a council president. I was council president for 2 years before being mayor. I understand what the dynamics are, and I understand the need to change the charter. Most communities, mine included, typically change the charter by a few amendments at a time. Yes, Mayfield Village has in the charter, a process, which is what you're also trying to do here. But everything is now put, all these eggs, into one basket. And what happened? The commission gave its report on December 19th. Council, during the holiday season, put the whole document on legislation. And again, council votes. Council has 7 votes whether to adopt or not pass legislation. Council put it on its meeting for December 31st. And then in subsequent meetings, we've seen there were minutes for 4 separate meetings. But by January 22nd, 3 weeks later, council not only adopted virtually the entire document. I think the 2 changes were adding another council vote in removal of the mayor and also moving the date, the effective date, instead of January of next year to October of this year, which I think that alone will create some real issues as to anyone who is on the ballot for November, which rules would apply if the charter goes into effect. But those are the 2 changes you made. There were no town hall meetings during the course of the commission's deliberation, and there were no town hall meetings that this council could have scheduled. Instead, council voted 5-2, a supermajority that's veto-proof, to put it on the May ballot. Why? When you're changing the entire charter, when you're saying we've waited 6 decades to make these changes, why would you force the issue onto May instead of the general election? I don't think any one of you can answer that with a straight face, candidly. It suggests that there was a determination on the part of this council to make the changes that are proposed and to make sure that they got onto the ballot. And it's dumping it into the laps of the voters now to figure out why and what's going on. Now, you can have town hall meetings, you're scheduling a few of them, but now voters have to react to what council has adopted. You can talk about the commission till the cows come home. This is council legislation. This is council's determination using its legislative powers, which are substantial, to put this on the ballot. And I think that you wasted a perfect opportunity to engage the community in a meaningful way to debate. The debate we heard tonight, clearly there's a lot of passion, but there's a lot of very solid points made on all of these issues. Why have they been bottled up? I don't think there's a good reason. And I would agree, this is something you still have the opportunity to take this off the ballot or just not have it go forward. Put it on the November ballot. Make sure there's good, robust debate.
Anyone else have comments?
I need to watch who I follow. I hear the word disingenuous being thrown around a lot tonight, and I would say, indeed. If you recall, the original proposal was for council to head the commission. That was after some debate. It went through, it got passed, it took the mayor's veto to basically force the process to be more in line with the National Civic League recommendations. Then council agreed to be liaisons instead of participating. Okay, take it for what's word. But tonight, I think we heard some fairly disturbing things put into the record that members of council were handing actual red line documents into the supposedly independent commission, and then praising the commission for how hard they worked. I probably would too if I handed them here's what I think should be in there. And nope, surprise, some of it made it in there. Not all of it. Okay, some of it did. As Mr. Rinker is very eloquently putting, that puts council's hands all over what happened. So when I sit there and I hear the word disingenuous, I think, indeed, to claim this is some sort of independent process, and then to directly, I'll use the word meddle in its construction, at that point, I don't even know what needs to be in there. It's just, the entire process is just plain offensive and beneath the standard of quality that I think Pepper Pike residents deserve out of its elected leaders. So vote no.
Does anyone else have any comments?
I'm not gonna get up to the podium because I don't think I need a microphone. Luann Graham, 31437 Shaker Boulevard. I'm the lone dissenter of all these speakers tonight because I think we need this charter looked at, voted on, and the changes made. We've had it for 60 years. Past councils haven't done anything about it. This council has decided to do something about it. The mayor's fighting it. Maybe he doesn't like the changes. Maybe he doesn't like that his role would be, he feels diminished. But that's his problem. The people of Pepper Pike have had ample opportunity to review this, to participate, and they have chosen not to. It's on the city website. If the resident does not want to participate, they're not looking at the website. They're not looking at your postcard. They're not looking at your surveys. They're not going to participate. As long as this doesn't affect their day-to-day life, people in this town don't care about certain issues. They go to work, they come home, they live their life. They don't care what this council's doing. They're not going to care about this charter amendment. I don't care how many town halls you have. I don't care how much you force it down their throat. There's going to be people that don't care. And so for everybody to be saying, oh, you have to have these debates, you have to have these debates. I'll let you was. There are people who aren't, you can go up to knock on doors and they don't know that this is going on. They don't want to know. So the people that are involved, they know about it. People don't want to be involved, they don't know about it, they don't care. But I think this is something that needs to be done. And this council has tried to have a dialogue. They have done everything that they could to let the people know. And I'm just tired of this debate of, he said, she said, then. Oh my gosh, I don't know a bunch of 3-year-olds debating the semantics of a word. Well, I don't like the word, pick out some of the words tonight because that conveys this. The people at Pepper Pike do have brains. Just put it out there.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Mr. Leskovic.
229-579 Gates Mill Boulevard. When I look at government and nonprofits, something always comes to my mind, that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And I don't want to take anything away from this council, this mayor, this commission, or any previous council, because I think everybody was trying to do a job, but clearly here, I think the process was badly flawed. Initially, they even going back to the minutes of the commission, they were going to have town hall meetings at the beginning. They were going to put the horse in front of the cart, not the cart in front of the horse. And at that point, if you could have had meaningful dialogue, I think the fact that there were all these announcements about the meeting and the participation is also badly flawed, because from a practical standpoint, most of those meetings were held. People didn't know they were being held unless you looked at the net on the internet. Many of them were rescheduled. Even members, even the chairman of the commission missed a couple of meetings because of scheduling problems. And there was no back and forth with residents in those meetings. You submitted something, it just got lost in a maze. Nobody came back and responded to you. I know I sent first thing in. I did not get a response back from the commission. And in the second meeting, I made some comments. It was suggested that I put them in writing because it was taking too much time. And maybe it was. But the reason you make comments in person, or you have it down hall, is you can get a response. Just having somebody say something and say thank you very much, that's very nice, and they go on to the next thing. It's not what the town hall or civic engagement with the public is. There has to be, just like all of you tonight had a back and forth. That's what would happen in a good town hall meeting. Now, when you do the town hall meeting after the fact, the value is really lost, because you're interpreting why somebody else did something. You're injecting your own opinions, and there's no way, in reality, that either the mayor or council can participate without abdicating, because it's your opinion. It's not something that's where there's legislative record. The other thing is, there was absolutely no reason why those commission meetings would not be recorded and published, just like these meetings are, so people could really see what was going on, because the minutes come out very late after the fact. They're very sterilized. You don't have things like a comment meeting, that they went down a rabbit hole on a certain issue. You don't see those in the minutes of the meeting. But those are the things when you watch a live meeting, you see. So you see all the emotions, you see the logic and the thing. So, we are where we are. But I do think the suggestion of putting this onto November makes an awful lot of sense. An awful lot of sense. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Thank you. Mr. Lemay, can we defer to our next meeting? It's 11 o'clock at night.
For,
The,
oh, yeah, I'm good. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. With that said, I believe we've concluded our meeting and adjourned.
How about a big round of applause for all of us?
Good job, audience.
Yeah, Bob Rice.
It's like an auditory marathon.
I am gonna.